And we're live. What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us. We are here today with Shervin, an Iranian friend of mine. Just a quick background for those who don't know, for much of the past few years, I spent my time in LA building a community called Grateful Giraffes. I met Shervin in LA. He became one of our core community members and one of my closest friends in LA. And we would talk about politics and stuff, and we even discussed doing a live stream together at some point. We didn't. We hoped it wouldn't be under such unfortunate circumstances, but here we are. So Shervin, it's good to see you. Not under these circumstances, but good to see you nonetheless.
Good to see you.
I'd like to start by just knowing, like, how's your family doing? Is everybody okay? What's the status with them?
Yeah, my family is okay. Everybody almost I know, everybody I know moved out of Iran, Tehran. They are in smaller cities, small towns north of Iran. That's the safest place, the other side of the mountains. Um, yeah, so my family's safe for now.
So, from what I understood, that people are struggling to leave Tehran now, though, right? Like the roads are closed. Is that true? That
Yeah,
there's no one leaving?
that is true because of there's like 15 million people in Tehran. It's not easy to get out. I know one of my friends told me that the other day he saw all the trains are um, filling. The trains are filled with people with no tickets. They just stand next to each other just to get out. So they are doing what they can to get everybody out, but it's not easy.
Hmm. So your family, I guess they booked it right away. Like they left
Now,
real quick.
my family and friends left before this surge.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, they just left.
And I'm hearing there's like a internet black, like they shut down the internet and social media is not working. Is that true? Like, what's the status of internet today?
Yeah, that's true too. I think 90%, 95% of Iran doesn't have internet access now. I don't know what's causing it. Is it technical issues or they are banning it? But I cannot reach my mom now. I don't know. And my
I
mom has
don't
like
know.
good VPNs and shit, but
So you can't even get in touch. Wow.
mm-mm.
And this is the government shutting it down?
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm not sure. I mean, they are known for doing that, but I don't know. Like so many things are wrong now that I don't know if this is them.
Right. It could be like the internet infrastructure was hit. But
Yeah,
I guess it makes sense that it seems like there's probably high risk for like popular uprising now. So you don't want to give people the opportunity
totally.
to communicate and coordinate. So, I think in many ways you are what is described as like the younger generation of Iran. You're secular. In fact, you almost didn't join the Grateful Drafts community because the first event you came to happened to be a Shabbat dinner,
Yeah.
and you were worried it was a religious community. And I had to explain to you that even though we do occasional Shabbats, it's a secular community, and you kind of had this bad taste in your mouth of religion because of your upbringing
Yeah, totally.
under the regime,
Totally.
right? Yeah. So uh, it seems like, and you've always told me you hate the government. You can't wait for it to them for a new government. However, we get there, you're waiting for that day to come. And I feel like many people share that sentiment. Correct?
Yeah, at least people I am in touch with. I know people are not happy with this government, but at the same time, very, I don't want to use the word patriotic, but they love their country. So the idea of having it another government take over or another force causes it, people don't want that. Even people who are 100% against the government that I know, they don't want that type of revolution. I
Mm,
always thought, I mean, I'm no expert, but I always thought the best way would be a gradual transition of like these people in power who's been in power for like 45 years die, and then the younger generation is just not as dogmatic, and then it changes. That's what I thought would be the perfect scenario. it seems it's a bit too late for that one. So
Right. But I think you bring up an important point that I was going to ask you about. But people want, even though people don't like their government, they're not cheering this on. They're not considering the Israeli tax as like a liberators of sorts. They're very much against this.
well, you're using people, and I have to talk for 90 million, and that's not easy. I have seen videos of people cheering the bombings, and I have seen images of people, like people's profile picture on Telegram changes to, I don't know, Iran or like flag, meaning that we are not happy with what's happening. So
Like it's like,
there's a big
okay,
range. Yeah, there's a big
right.
range. I think older generation, because I was talking to some people who are like over 50, 60, and they've seen the last war, they've lived through it. They're like, yes, please kill all of them. We don't want anything to do with this, because they feel
Interesting.
responsible for the revolution, Um,
Mm,
and then there's the younger ones, especially people who are like in their 20s. People in 20s are hotheads, so they're like, no, fuck that. I'm Iran all the way. And I'm like, okay, I understand that. I totally get it. But at the same time, I feel like you're just giving your life up for someone who wouldn't do it for you. So
right, right. And you said you spoke earlier about thinking that the way to have a revolution in Iran will not be an overnight thing, but it's a gradual process where the older generation that seems a little bit more extreme will die. Because right now, the ruling class of Iran, they're all very old,
yeah, very old.
very old. So, and are there signals that the younger, those who will replace them are a little bit more moderate, maybe a little bit more secular? Are there some signals of that?
We don't hear them, especially me not living in Iran. I don't hear from them. I don't know anything about them. But I do know that these people who are in power have been there since the revolution. So they came up with this idea, they fought for it, they made the
Right.
revolution happen, and now they are there. People who are after that didn't live through that, didn't make those decisions. They're just different people.
Right,
It's
right.
just a guess, I that's
Yeah,
what I said.
it's okay. It's not for certain that that will be the case, but you say there's good reason to believe it. And the younger generation, on average, is a little bit more moderate, it seems. So you would hope that there would be more moderates coming in. Okay. There's a lot of talk. Like there's a lot. First, they're saying we need to get rid of the nuclear program, but then there's this talk of regime change. But let's say the current regime collapses. Who's most likely to take their spot?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I'm not like, yes, please kill all of them, because I'm afraid that this has happened before to other countries and it didn't end well for them. Because when the government goes down, there's chaos. And if there's not a robust plan of what's going to happen after, then it's dangerous for everybody. Like my mom and some family members live in Iran, and I'm worried that like things will not be great for them, and like not enough food, problems, security. And your question is who is the most likely to take over, and my answer is I don't know. I have no clue who is the first person that people will follow. There is the prince of Iran, Reza,
Reza, I was
whose
that.
dad, yeah, Reza Pahlavi, whose dad was the last king of Iran. He, I would say he's probably the most likely, but he first of all doesn't want it. He doesn't want to lead Iran because he's actually a good person. He's a good person and he's very well educated. He knows a lot about politics, but all in theory. Okay, he's not a man of action. He's not a leader. at least not that I know of, or I've been following his um, uh, feed online to see what he's up to. He's good news is that he doesn't seem like he wants to bring back monarchy in Iran. He wants to liberate it, but at the same time, I don't know if he can. So it's a
Right.
question of like would people trust this guy to do it, and then who knows what's going to happen after. He seems
Mhm.
to have 100 days plan of what needs to happen after, and he's been talking about it since many years ago, especially now.
Right, right. Okay. Well, my sense from what I've seen from other instances when a regime falls, the one that replaces is the next most powerful, the next most organized. So you're not going to destroy the entire IRGC from airstrikes, and I don't see any situation where there's like a boots on the ground situation. So you could kill all the mullahs, but then the IRGC seems to be almost certainly the ones to take power. I don't even see how Reza fits in that equation, right? As if the IRGC is in power, like who is he to come in there and do anything? It's another question of what's even is relevant. It's okay, so he has the blood of the Shah, but that doesn't mean anything in terms of his qualifications. But it is interesting how that alone gives him relevance. It's almost like we see this in. I mean, you have the concept for millennia of dynasties, blood meaning something. And even in America today, where you have presidents, you still have, George Bush and then George W. Bush. And, people are already talking about Baron Trump and whatever. And it's so silly, but it sounds like
Reza,
Reza's
yeah,
relevant. It comes from that. But is it right to think that like the IRGC is by far the most powerful armed group in Iran, correct?
yeah,
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't it almost seems like he could keep inspiring from outside. I don't see how you take out the Revolutionary Guard. I don't think
yeah.
anybody
No,
plan. We kind of live in this world where it's like, yeah, let's just bomb and we'll figure out what comes next later. But I mean, we've seen this end in disaster time and time again to destabilize the nation without a day after plan. Hopefully, this does not turn out as chaotic and as deadly as like Iraq, for example, which led
hmm,
to eventually ISIS, right? ISIS was born out of the
yeah,
destabilization of Iraq, and
exactly.
hundreds of thousands were killed. So, knock on knock on wood
Right,
that we don't.
right. Yeah, this guy. Look, Iran is like a very old monarchy, so people in their culture, in their blood, there's an urge to this going after the monarch. And also here, I think for him, one other thing that really helped him get to where he is now is because of the name, he had the audience, and because of his intention, he got hurt. And that's why he's not a candidate. I think it has less to do with blood and more to do with what he's been talking about. But
Mm,
at the same time, I mean, he's been very vocal about it that he doesn't want to leave, and I
he's
don't
saying he
think he
doesn't want
can.
to wait. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
You make
Um,
a good point. It's not the blood. He's because he opportunistically took his position to make
yeah,
himself a relevant figure and commentator when it comes to the
yeah.
some future Iranian revolution. Okay.
And one other thing about him is that he wasn't the crown prince, right? Crown prince died. Actually, he killed himself, I think. But
That's his
so
older
he
brother.
that's his older brother. So he was born and raised thinking that he's not going to be in charge. You know, um, maybe that had something to do with it. Uh, I There's no way to know for sure, but yeah, this is where he is now.
Okay. I guess we'll see.
They killed his dad. They ruined his country. So like, it's an opportunity to get back to, on
Right.
the personal
He's
scale.
he's been exiled since 79, right?
Yeah, I didn't want to leave. Why would he want to leave? He had the best life in Iran.
True. He was a prince.
Yeah,
A legit
literally.
prince. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Fair. So I do see we have some questions coming in. We're going to prioritize Discord questions, and on YouTube we're going to prioritize super chats. But we will try to get to everything. So Noam is saying Tesla satellite internet is supposed to be open for Iranians. Is this true? Yeah, I heard Starlink was put into action. Is that right? Do you know anything about
Yeah,
that?
I've seen some footage of Starlink being used, people putting it on their rooftops, but it's not easy to get Starlink, especially in Iran. So not everybody has that.
You need Okay, wait, but it's only
You
people
need a
with satellite.
device.
You actually need a device.
Yeah.
Right, I guess that makes sense. So yeah, that's very limited. And that's something that I guess Elon Musk can bypass, so that people who do have the satellites, they don't have a way to stop that. But that's still a small portion of the population.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Someone's asking, do you have a hunch of what percentage of Iranians in Iran actually want a secular government, a secular democratic government?
I think in theory and in just in words, 80%. But when it comes to what that actually looks like, meaning you have to accept that Islam is not going to be the ruling power anymore, or you have to accept your neighbor however they are, then I think it's less than 50%.
Wait. So let's go deeper into that. So they say they want a secular government, but when push comes to shove, you're saying,
Yeah, because what does that look like? What's a secular government? Depicted for them, yeah, that means that you get to do whatever you want. You can go pray or whatever it is you want to do. Because at the end of the day, there is a big portion of Iran who are actually religious, right? And those are the people who have always had issues with people who are not religious. Religious people don't care. People who are not religious, they don't care about the religious. You can do whatever
right,
you want. It's the other way around, right? And I haven't been in Iran for a while, so don't take my word for this. But I think maybe 50% know what that's looked like and want it.
right. You're saying it's like the grass is green on the other side, but in practice, it might look a little bit different.
Yeah,
And I mean, but that is the goal of a secular democracy. It's that religious people can be religious, secular people could be secular.
exactly.
No one's telling anyone else how to live. That seems like the best system in diverse societies. There's certainly challenges with democracy we see because people are easily convinced and often dumb, and we see how they elect often not the best choice, but one of the worst choices. But that's the
Right,
conversation for another time. I
right.
think it's certainly better than what is currently the governance system in Iran.
There
Uh,
is part of Islam that actually says in order to complete your religion, you need to do something called I mean, it's an Arabic term, I guess, but
what's it called?
it's Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy az Munkar. And I'm pronouncing it in Farsi. I don't know if that's the
Okay,
correct
because
way to do it, but
we have some Arabs in the Arab Muslims in the Discord, so I'm interested. They might have some thoughts on that.
yeah. So that thing says that if you see somebody doing something that's wrong, meaning it's like Islamically wrong, haram, you have to tell them. And if they didn't listen, you have to persuade them. If they didn't listen, at the end of the day, you can force them. And the force has to come from like your religious leader. You cannot force them yourself, but at the end of the day, the religious leader can force them. So when you have this component in their belief, it means that if they see me doing something that they believe is wrong, they their religion says that you have to force me to stop doing it. And that could look beautiful when you see someone stealing, someone hurting someone, but it would look very ugly when I'm partying and they think that's wrong.
Interesting. Okay, I think that there might be some Muslims in the community that disagree, so we might.
Well, I'm
Well,
telling you what happens in Shia in Iran, so you
yeah.
can
Okay.
disagree.
Fair. That's true. They might be Sunni, and then you have the benefit of the doubt that they just don't understand Shia interpretation.
This is
But
what they taught us in school. I don't know what to tell you.
interesting. And is the school system there semi-religious?
Not semi, it's religious.
It's religious. It's religious. Okay. So Something I'm interested about. I heard that Iran has the second most gender reassignment surgeries in the world. Like there's a lot of trans gender reassignment. That to me doesn't make any sense considering Iran being a theocracy. Can you
It's
make any
crazy,
sense
isn't
of
it? Yeah,
that? Yeah.
look, I don't know anyone, and I don't think it's, I mean, I don't think it's the second biggest. But when I was there, even in high school, like when I was in high school, things were more strict. Now everything is a bit more loose. But even when I was in high school, they told us that it's possible. If you want, just go to a doctor and the doctor have to sign it. But if they do, they'll do it for you.
And this
I
is
don't
a
know if you
religious
want to
school
do it.
system. This is a
I
religious
know, I
school.
know. That's crazy to me. I don't know why they're so open about that.
You know what my only theory on this is, and we should probably look into it more. It's like it's instead of being gay,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
That's the only theory.
Yeah, yeah. If you're like a man and you're into men, no, no, no. Then you're a woman. Rather you be a woman than a gay man.
Yes,
That's
yes.
the only thing I can make sense of it, like,
Totally.
right?
Yeah, yeah. We don't want gay, so you're probably a woman. Just go change it.
Okay, somebody actually on the comments, I don't know about the number, but it's a way to fix gay people. Okay, so that seems to be yeah. Cool. Let's see. We have a question here from Altoids saying His Imperial Majesty Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi is the legitimate ruler of Iran. All right, Altoids, we're going to need to get into that more at some point. I'm interested in understanding your thought on that. But it continues and says, and is going to bring democracy to Iran. If he gets the support of enough army officers, which is rumored, would you support him?
Would I support him?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't live in Iran. It doesn't matter if I support him. What he needs is people in Iran support him. And for me, standing here, I think he's much better than what we have now. But I don't live there. I don't get a vote for that. And
Right.
me following him doesn't mean anything. People in Iran have to do it. And one thing I never really liked about people who influence people in Iran is that you're sitting here safe and sound and you're asking them to go out on the street knowing that this government kills them, like shots them on the street.
Right. Do you get a sense of if other Iranians would support Reza?
It's not a hard name, it's Reza.
Yeah, the V and the Z though, for some reason.
Yeah.
Reza, right? Yeah, Reza. Okay.
Um, do I have a sense? No, I'd be lying if I said I do. I know many people say that he's not a leader,
Okay.
especially older generation. They're like, but I'm just one person.
Yeah, yeah. So I just don't. I mean, Altoids. I'll add to this. I don't see it. And again, I might be wrong, but in what world are you going to have a secular takeover when the IRGC it's an Islamist military group, and they're by far more powerful than the secular military. Like, so I
But
just don't.
secular militaries?
Well,
Oh, you
well,
mean the actual
Iran has
military?
Iran has an army as well that's secular, right?
I mean, it's not, I don't know if it's secular. Everything in Iran has Islamic taste. That's why it's called Islamic Republic of Iran.
Mm.
But
So how do you
those
explain the
people,
difference between IRGC and
oh
the
yeah,
regular army?
military is for defense. They never walk out of Iran. Sepah or IRGC, as you call them, they don't have borders. They actually believe that they rule and lead the Islamic world. It's just in their name, there's no Iran. It's not Sepah of Iran. It's
Interesting. So
Sepah.
Sepah is IRGC,
Yeah,
and they're much more numerous and much more powerful than the army.
yeah. All the budget goes to them. And I don't know who told me this. I think one of my school teachers back when I was in school said that the reason they separated them is because they were the one who used this flaw in the system to overthrow Shah. That was when the military gave up, there was nothing else to fight them back. So they separated it to two. One is dedicated to them. so you cannot ever take over. Even if military is like, we are with people, we're gonna fuck you up, you can't, because we have more power and we are with the regime.
They understood the mistakes of the past.
Yep.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
But I mean, this is just one thing I heard from a school teacher. There might be other reasons for them doing it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see some more questions. So yeah, Elle, you're asking if the majority want the current government out. Yeah, I think we spoke on that briefly. The majority would like to see a new government, right? That's fair to say.
Yeah. The
At
majority
least
want to see change. Want to see change.
want to see change. Okay.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something interesting because, you know, I've wanted better rulership for Iran as long as I've understood the situation there. But I've also recognized the challenge with regime change and what that looks like. And you kind of reinforced it by saying you always believed the only way it could happen is gradual. And you actually mentioned that the school system is less strict than it used to be. So does that mean there has been already a shift in Iran in like on an institutional level almost? It seems like something's going on.
I don't think it was a decision. It was just that they couldn't hold it together anymore, because the new generation, we didn't have Instagram or TikTok. New generations see, when I was 7, they see what's happening in other countries and people dancing on the, like they're doing whatever they want. So they start doing
Mhm.
it, and then there's a limit to how much of them you can just arrest. They're like 15, 14. Like, what are you gonna do? And then they had to
Okay,
just let go and release it a little bit. I don't think it was a conscious decision, oh, let them do whatever they
right.
want.
But
In
that's a good
fact,
sign. That's a good
it
sign,
is.
right?
It is. It is a
Hmm.
good sign.
Do you remember we watched that video together where they were showing these like teenage girls a photo of Khomeini and then a photo of some pop star? Who I don't remember which pop star it was, and they
Yeah,
recognized
I
the
remember
pop
you showed me
star.
that.
The pop star they knew right away, and they're like, "Who is that? Is that Khomeini?" Like they didn't know, and
Yeah.
it was kind of shocking,
Yeah.
right?
Like, look, that girl is probably what, 14, 15?
Yeah, something like that.
How would she know who's Khomeini? I
I
know because
but don't
I
isn't
was
his
right
photo
after war.
everywhere?
When I was in school, there was a mandate that their picture has to be in every classroom. I don't know if that's the case. If it was the case, they would know, right?
You would think, yeah. Okay. There was another video. It was an Egyptian guy in Iran for Ramadan, and he's doing a video, and
I
he's just so
know.
he's so upset that everyone's eating and smoking cigarettes. He's like,
I know
"What is
you
this
showed me that.
country?" Yeah. So okay, that's interesting.
I think majority, I know I keep saying numbers and they probably not, I'm not probably consistent with the numbers I'm throwing out there, because I've limited information and I haven't been there for a while, but majority of people in Iran are not Muslims anymore. At least not in practice. Because on paper, almost everybody is, unless you're born into another religion like Christianity.
Correct. Yeah.
But on paper, I'm Muslim, right? I don't practice. I don't know anybody who practices in
Interesting.
Iran. Yeah.
I imagine there it probably depends on the city and neighborhood and also the generation, right?
Yes, totally.
Which is similar to here in Israel, right? Like if you well, I don't think there's a single Israeli that doesn't know a religious person because it's 50% of the country, but you know, you could live in Tel Aviv and barely interact with religious people, or you could live in like Bnei Brak, which is right nearby, and barely know any secular people. It changes. Where you were in Tehran? Is that where you studied?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Until what age was it?
In Tehran?
Yeah. Like in what
Well,
age were you in school there till?
18, and then I went
Oh,
to a city north of Iran, a small town called Noor. I was there for 5 years, and then came back to Tehran, worked a little bit, and then I left.
okay. So most your life, you did get to see it
Oh
from
yeah,
kid
oh
as
yeah.
in, yeah. Is the reason you haven't been back in years because of the situation, or
It's
just
everything together.
everything together?
There's a reason I left. I didn't leave thinking, oh, I'm gonna miss being oppressed.
Fair, yeah. We used to. You and I have had a lot of dinners together, what we would call evenings of gratitude, and we would share gratitude for people. And you mentioned your grandma, and then you called her, and I've been thinking about your grandma.
Really? She's
Yeah,
here
because
now.
she
Yeah.
escaped.
I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
she was here before this happened. She came to visit us.
And who
Good for
was
her.
it? Was that your brother? Is he still messing up with the dressing?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
I told him about that incident, and he said, "What's the difference? It's a good salad."
For just to give some context, I mean, we're turning this lighthearted, which I think is important in these times. But we used to do these dinners, and his brother came, and everyone needs to kind of present the dish they brought. It's a potluck, and his brother brought what he described as a Caesar salad, but he said but the dressing he brought was Thousand Island. So I've been giving him shit for this since that day. It's like, bro, it's not a Caesar salad if it's with Thousand Island. So not letting
Yeah.
him let that one down. Um, let's see. Okay, we have a lot of comments coming in. Oh, sound went out. Interesting. For how long Discord was sound out? Hella confused is saying we need regime change in Israel as well. I would vote for that for sure. 30 seconds or less. Okay. Yeah, I think they missed the Caesar salad story, but whatever. Sean is saying, can you give an example in what way you felt oppressed, like a real world experience?
Where do I start? Well, you cannot wear what you want. It doesn't matter even if you're a guy, you cannot wear shorts.
Really?
Yeah, let's start there. And when I was in school, I wasn't allowed to have long hair. You cannot hang out with your friends if there's girls among them, or boys if there are girls. You cannot drink. You cannot have loud music, party of any sort. And for me, like, these are just fun things that are taken away, right? For me, the most annoying part was that whenever you disagree with something, if there is a little bit of Islam in it, you're not allowed to voice your opinion because there's going to be consequences. You can't do it, but you might go to jail. Would you do it just because you said, "Oh, I don't believe this is right," or "I'm questioning Islam," or you might go to jail. Even in school, like, they can just call this IRGC, or it's not IRGC back in Iran, but a force that will come and take you away, and they show you what it's like to be in one of their jails. Many of my friends got everybody in Iran has been arrested at some point. I've been to
Is that
jail.
right?
Yeah,
Really?
I've been to jail because I had one drink, and I had to blow in this thing, and they were like, "Okay, it doesn't matter if you're drunk or not. You had a drink."
Wow.
So I went to jail for a night.
For a night. Okay.
Um, but
If it makes you feel any better, I spent 10 days in military prison. So, although it's
yeah, you
not that
told me about it.
bad.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Oh, I think
Okay.
for me, the biggest part was not being able to express myself in different ways.
Different ways. Yeah. Well, the person who asked the question, Sean, responded, "Oh shit," to your response. So,
Good answer.
Yeah. So this is a question ASDF, I guess, is asking for me. Is it true Israel is largely unaffected and can keep fighting like this indefinitely? No, I wouldn't say that's the case. It's the airport's closed, so that's a that's a pretty significant thing. I don't think there's been any war that has caused the airport to close for many days in a row. So if this continues and they can keep the airport closed, that's significant. It's significant for the economy. Tourism is done for the summer, so it's definitely taking a toll. But life is going on, like, for example, the past 2 days the gym was closed. I just got a text saying the gym will be open by tomorrow. Trains are running. I'm going to Tel Aviv for the weekend. It's going to be interesting what it's like there. I don't imagine like the night there'll be like clubs and bars open, but I'll report. I'll let you know. So no, I don't think. I think it's too big of an economic toll and too much a toll on civilian way of life for Israel to want to maintain this a long time. And based on what they're saying, they say another week or two will achieve our goals. I don't think Israel wants this prolonged, unless they're able to get to the point where Iran is not able to, because every day there's less ballistic missiles hitting. So it does seem like their capabilities are lessening. If their capabilities continue to lessen, it's possible that the airports can open and this can be maintained. And I do know a lot of people are upset. They thought Iran would be a little bit stronger. Like they've been preparing for this. I think you mentioned something like that. I mean, they've been preparing for this for decades. Budget of $1 trillion or whatever to build this, and then meh.
Then nothing.
Although meh is relative, because again, they did manage to close the airport and affect the economy, but it's not, it's not overwhelming. Yeah. Okay.
And I just remembered, just before I joined this talk, I saw this video on Telegram that apparently their media has been hacked, and they're showing like propaganda on the TV. Like Iranian media has been hacked. That
By
was
who?
interesting. By Israel, I suppose. Like, who else would do that?
Right. Interesting. I also heard there was a cyber attack on the bank or something.
Yeah, banks are down.
Thanks.
Banks are down. Water north of Iran, north of Tehran, water reserve has been. I don't know what. There was an explosion. No one has water in Tehran. No one is in Tehran anymore. No one I know, but there was no water running.
I mean, Israel is known for not just hitting military targets, but also civilian infrastructure. I mean, as much as people want to say they're only targeting military sites, there's a pretty consistent track record of hitting vital military infrastructure. So that doesn't surprise me. ASDF. So Sean, who's in Israel, is giving an anecdote of how it's affected them. Sean saying, I went on a first date an hour before the first missile. Since then, I can't see her again. She's stuck in Tel Aviv. So that's an anecdote of some effect. Nikias is asking, I've been seeing some clips from Tehran. People look very westernized. I didn't see anyone in a burqa. Many women had their hair uncovered, etc. The media image in the West is that things are much more strict. Could you comment on that?
This happened after Mahsa Amini. You remember the young girl they killed?
Yeah.
There was like an uprising.
Kurdish woman.
Yeah, the Kurdish woman. Yeah. And after that, because of all the uprising and everything happened, and then the president died in a helicopter crash, or that's what they told people. After that, they started.
It was a helicopter crash. It's just wasn't it an accident or not? It's unclear.
I know, yeah, like it wasn't a helicopter. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't an accident.
Yeah. The helicopter did crash, but was it hit with the missile first? Was it sabotaged? I don't know. I don't think we know.
Yeah, I would say anyways, that's a different story. But after that, they started just being a bit easier on this. That the government organization that was in charge of putting people in jail because of hijab, that stopped working for a while. So in Tehran, you were absolutely right. I've seen, like, my mom sends me videos and no one has hijab, no one is wearing hijab. And I asked her a couple of months ago, I was like, what's going on? And she was like, oh yeah, this is how we live now. But and we never really had Burqa people in Iran. I mean, that's more of, I think that's more of a Saudi or like Sunni hijab. I've in my whole life I've seen one person, one burqa.
Mm.
But I would say in religious cities, it's still a big thing. You cannot, like, Tehran is Tehran, and like small towns never really cared, because small towns, like, the police is your cousin, and like what are you gonna do? Arrest you? But
Yeah,
yeah,
so it's almost like strength in numbers. They just can't enforce it anymore. It's like they've almost
yeah,
given up on Tehran.
they're giving up.
I mean, this should give us hope, even without regime change, this should give us hope that the trajectory is certainly in the positive direction.
Look, I don't know if regime change is around the corner, honestly. I think the higher possibility is for them to just accept everything and be like, oh, you're right, we fucked up. Because at the end of the day, for Khamenei, is more important to keep his power and his government than what's best for Iran. He never really cared about Iran. Yeah, he publicly have said that the more important objective on our plate is to make sure that the Islamic world has a leader and is safe. It doesn't care about Iran. So I would say, if he's not, if he doesn't die soon, he's just gonna accept everything. It doesn't matter what he says. It doesn't matter how strong he looks for people, because he's been. I don't know if you saw what he told everybody. He recorded this video and broadcasted, saying, "Oh, we're never gonna surrender." To me, that's funny, because you have to look at what he's said in the past 20 years, okay, and what he's done. I think he would surrender before he would have a regime change.
You think, okay, but what does surrender mean? Because it sounds like surrender means regime change,
Well, if
right?
that's the case, then I don't know what's gonna happen. But if
You're
it means
saying,
that you don't have missiles, you don't have nuclear, you don't have
uh,
whatever,
uh,
then yes, they accept it.
right, if surrender means just get rid of your nuclear program entirely, meaning not even nuclear energy, that's a
Mm-hmm.
surrender, and then that would be worth it for him to stay in power. Oh, yeah, that
If
makes
it's
sense.
regime change, then there is no staying in power.
Right, exactly. And then he'd rather. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the problem with fundamentalists, because you know, it's unclear what his motivation is. If he believes that he's ordained by God to do this and never surrender, let the whole country burn before, this is our role in this world. And if they're martyrs, they're martyrs. That's a little bit of a problem. But it's interesting, in his late years, he's, I think, 86 now. This must be pretty stressful for him to deal with that at 86. That's
Yep.
like, at his age, he should just be chilling. Should
Yeah,
be.
he definitely is not as brave as he was. He's definitely a coward now. At least
Is that
past
right? Yeah.
10, 15 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. He doesn't
Okay.
look it because he's been brave before, but you got to see what he does.
Why? What do you mean by that?
Um, he talks big, but he never stands by any of them. That's a
Hmm.
sign of it, right? Like, he looks strong for people, but the backstage, he just makes the decisions anyway. He's like, okay, yeah, let's just do it.
Yeah.
Let's keep our
Okay.
power.
Well, it did seem like he's been, like, in the past exchanges with Israel over the past year and somewhat, it did seem like they've been avoiding direct aggression with Israel. They'd rather do it through their proxies. Israel provoked on many occasions, and they did respond, but in a more symbolic way, in a way that wouldn't further escalate. Here, they were kind of left with no choice, and I'll put that in quotations because there's always a choice, but it seems like they've been trying to avoid this direct conflict with Israel. And I think now that it's playing out, I think we could probably understand why. They're saying, describing the Ayatollah as a paper tiger. You know that term?
Oh yeah, he's
Like a
definitely
tiger but made out of paper. Yeah.
yeah, he is.
Yeah. Critical thinking over doctrine is saying Iranian people often protest within pro-Israel demonstrations in North America. Can you please explain this? Are you talking specifically about Persian Jews? Because that would make perfect sense. But in terms of non-Jewish Iranians, do you know anything about it? Is that true that non-Persian Iranians are pro-Israel? That does.
I mean,
Does that
look,
seem?
Iranian in Iran, I've seen videos of them being pro-Israel because it's not. It has less to do with Israel Gaza and more to do with the government have been telling them for years and years, like, they want to destroy Israel, right? It's their way of showing that we are not with you. We are with the people of Israel and we love them. You don't get to tell us what to do. And I I don't know if pro-Israel in the Western definition, unless people live here and they're Jewish, makes sense.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So critical thinking over doctrine is saying non-Jewish Iranians. Yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what the demographic breakdown is. But are you saying this from experience? You've seen in pro-Israel protests, you see a lot of Iranians. Let's see. Sean is saying, is it true that the Iran-Iraq war has proven that Iran doesn't mind being in war indefinitely? I mean, I would say it does show that there is a level of resilience, and they are willing to put up with pretty massive amounts of casualties and pain. They're not quick to surrender, it seems. Would you agree with that, Shervin?
Yeah, totally. But that was when people believed in something, believed in their revolution, their government, their country. Now I don't think the country has that at all. They had the majority of people, everybody went to war because they thought it's the right thing to do. I don't think they have that now. But yes, short answer is
Right.
yes, you're right.
Although, does it matter if the people have shifted on this? Because what all they need is for the military to remain resilient, you know? Unless there's a popular uprising that might put internal pressure on them to end it. But as long as there's no internal uprising, all they need is the resilience of the IRGC. What's the Farsi word for it? I want to start
Sepa.
Sipa. That's how I'm going to start calling them. Want to
Yeah,
feel
okay.
cultured, yeah. The Sipa.
Um, Look, they are definitely afraid of of a of an uprising because in Iran there is like curfews. They don't let you go out. There's military in the streets, not to save you from anything, but to make sure that nobody's gonna protest. What? There's nothing to save you from. Like the military on foot. What are they gonna do?
Right, right. Okay. Fahed has a question here. Fahed, our friend from Gaza. I heard there's a level of hate for Palestinian identity because these regimes use the Palestinian cause as a pretext to keep power, like Syria and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Is there how do Iranians feel about Palestinians and Palestine?
Um, well, the people who support the government are 100% for Palestine. Um, but I don't like. I think that the question was if anybody hates Palestine or relates them to
Yeah, if they kind of
Hamas or
blame yeah, they kind of blame Palestinians
They
on
don't blame Palestine. They always
No.
blame the Islamic Republic, and their main issue has always been, why are you sending our resources to other countries, including Syria, Lebanon, and Palestine, while we are hungry? We have issues here. We don't have enough jobs. Like, people have issues. Why are you spending our money in other countries? That's their issue. I've never heard someone hate Palestine.
Mm. Well, yeah, you need to. There really is this like recklessness to the regime. Funding all these proxies rather than fueling your own economy. That's one. I mean, that's clearly, obviously, the people are going to be upset about that. And also, very much playing with fire, because all the enriched uranium they were doing in recent years is like, and you could speculate, was this them attempting to have enough enriched uranium for a bomb, or were they using this for negotiation leverage? And we could speculate as to what it is, but regardless of what the reason for that enrichment was, it's certainly like poking the bear, like increasing the chance that there's going to be some kind of military intervention, and that's at the expense of the people.
Mm-hmm.
So they we'll put it this way: they definitely played their cards wrong. It seems,
They
yeah.
were never good at it, honestly.
No, damn. Why are humans plagued by such poor leadership? Why can't the best in each society find their way to the top? They don't want the power. The best don't want the power. It's only
Yeah.
those who are most driven towards power are ones who generally are not the ones who would do the best with it.
I think I heard something about this. They were saying that it requires you to lie and do stuff that good people don't want to do. So
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. The most honest people are at a disadvantage in political systems.
they never
Yeah,
make it up, even
yeah,
if they are interested in helping or doing whatever.
right. If you don't want to talk about this next topic, we don't have to, but you did mention, since you're a green card holder living in the US, you had some concern to do this conversation. What are your concerns with everything going on in the US?
I mean, it's both ways, right? Like, I wasn't able to go back to Iran anyway because um I've been active in protests for Mahsa Amini, and I've heard people not being able to get out once they go back. They either go to jail, interrogated, stuff happens to them, and it's not because we are a threat. It's just because to make an example
Hmm.
that you cannot talk shit about us even in other countries, right? So
Right,
I already accepted that, but now, like, if something happens here, then I'm homeless.
right. Well, it sounds like as long as you're not Mexican or pro-Palestine, you should be fine, or at least a pro-Palestine protester. But if for whatever reason this live stream gets you in trouble, I'll fly back. We'll go to Vegas. We'll get married. But you might need to get a sex change, okay?
Right, right. For that,
And
I might have to go to Iran. That's easier there.
yeah, it's subsidized there, huh? And for those who don't understand the context, you'll need to watch back from the beginning. Um, okay, cool. Let's see. Maybe I know you said you have till the top of the hour, so we have a few more minutes. Let's see if there's one last question. Maybe someone wants to toss us a super chat. Any super chat goes 50% to Shervin. That's how it goes. So 50% to Shervin.
Do you think there is any Iranians in your audience except for me?
That's a good question, honestly. So for those viewing, let us know if you're from Iran. I mean, we do have this is being streamed to Discord, it's being streamed to Twitter and YouTube. Pretty good viewership right now, but it'll probably get most of the views in the subsequent days. So those viewing, let us know if you're watching from Iran, and if you are, sending you love, wishing you all the best. And if you do want to also hop on, I think now's the time to do more of these Israeli Iranian conversations, because at the end of the day, the people are not enemies.
Hmm.
Uh, people are not enemies. We just are plagued by this psychopathic leadership. Let's see. Final question. Oh, so PN, who's been commenting, is Iranian from the U.S. Okay, cool. Nice. Anyways, we only have 3 minutes left. So any final thoughts you want to leave us with? Oh, wait, never mind. We do have a question, and then you could do final thought. Oh, yeah, El, this was already responded to. So once Shervin's off, I'm happy to respond that. Yep. So final thoughts. Any final thoughts, man?
Final thoughts. Yeah, I mean, majority of people in Iran want peace, and I think for me it has always been important to make sure that this gets to the media, because it doesn't. Western media covers only the ones that don't say that, don't want peace, and Iranian media covers only the people who don't want peace, because they want to say we don't want, everyone is with us. So like there's majority of people who are not being heard, and majority of people want peace. They don't want any of this shit. Just want to have a nice country, build it, live there. I didn't want to live in Iran. I didn't want to leave Iran. I wanted to live there, but I left the government, really, not the country. So yeah.
That's a beautiful thing to end it with, and I hope your family stays safe. We'll definitely stay in touch, and we've only been friends for, I guess, 2 years now, but we've already been a Burning Man together twice, and possible we'll make this 3. I'm still deciding if I'm gonna fly out, so I'll let you know about that.
Totally. It's been 3 years, by the way, but yeah.
2.5.
Almost 3. I was
Has it
at
been
the
3?
barn.
Okay. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
Or I guess time flies when you're live streaming through war.
Yeah.
Comments
Already
are saying, Shervin, much love to you. Hope your family stays safe.
Thank you. Thanks, brother.
And people saying, I hope you can go back and be safe. So you're getting love from the comments. Awesome, Shervin. Thank you so much. We'll catch up.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Well, that was good. I appreciated that. I learned a lot. I got to catch up with a friend while doing this. It's 11 p.m. here. Do you know where your children are? Yeah, I do. Anyways, I'll do like another 30 to 45 minutes, and then we'll wrap it up. The question is, where do we take it from here? We could have people from Discord hop on if they want to share thoughts, ask questions. We could also continue Q&A in the comment section. Let's see what we have going on. Okay, so Yael, you asked, do you think most Iranians support or do not support what Israel's doing? So here's what he explained. He said, the majority do not love the government and they'd like to see change, but they're not happy they're getting attacked. He said they're patriots and it's kind of making them more patriotic. And I think this shouldn't be surprising. Like, I guess one example we could see from Israel, you had like 7 months of protests, record level protests, judicial reform protests. And then October 7th happened, and that kind of banded the country together. It's like, now we need to band together. We're under attack. So I think we see that pretty consistently. When you could be very critical of your government, it doesn't mean you want someone externally to be attacking. And here's another, like on an interpersonal level, right? You could like talk shit about a family member, but if you hear somebody else talking shit about your family member, you're like, hey, don't talk about my family that way. So I think it's similar to that. Sean says, how do the majority feel about the nuclear program? So from what I've understood, the overwhelming majority support it, but that's because there's a lot of civilian use for nuclear. There's a civilian nuclear program. I don't know how many would support Iran getting nuclear weapons. I'm not sure, but like nuclear energy is one of the best forms of energy, and there's medical purposes to nuclear as well. So, yeah. Sen says there's info coming out that Syria, Iran did not take advantage of some of the offers from Russia and China that would have been a boost for the economy and military. Sen, can you explain that? Like, why wouldn't you take a boost? Although China, maybe what China gives you a loan at interest, so maybe they didn't want to be indebted to China. Honestly, China is quite impressive. They're like not like the U.S. brute force toppling regimes. They're kind of like a slow and sophisticated spreading, funding ports in Africa, loaning countries money. Sure, they don't have quite the same freedoms that the average American would have. But when you talk to, I spent a few weeks in China. They overwhelmingly love their government from the people I spoke to. And they, in their perception, feel like they have freedoms that Americans don't because they're much safer there. So the crime rate is much lower. So it's interesting how freedom works. It's not only what are you allowed to do, right? Like it's not only the system, not system of checks and balances. What's it called? Having due process, right? And like a robust legal system. It's freedom is beyond that. So for them, being able to walk at night on the street without fear of being attacked is freedom. More of a social safety net is freedom, right? You don't have like the homelessness epidemic in China. That's why, this is not a full defense of China, right? We could list who knows how many human rights abuses, but the whole like Western narrative of we're the good guys, they're the bad guys, I've never been one to buy that. Not in my adult life, at least. America's definitely better than China in some ways, but I think there's many ways China's better than America. And I think there's a case to be made that they very well might be the next superpower. So learning Mandarin might be worth it. Although learning Mandarin as an adult is probably super fucking hard. I'm going for Arabic before Mandarin just for reconciliation purposes. Let's see what we have going on here. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, maybe let's see some updates. What's going on? We'll read the news. Fahad, are you saying good luck with learning Arabic? If that's what you're saying, thank you. And maybe we could even practice one day. We do have one of our team members at Head On, Allah. She's Palestinian, and we sync every day because we're building community together. And at the end of each call, I teach her some Hebrew. She teaches me some Arabic. So, I'm doing a few minutes a day, and it's cool. Fahad, you're saying so you want to learn Hebrew, you have no time. Okay, maybe we could find a time to chat and do some Hebrew Arabic exchange. Michael Ovadia saying freedom is a particular philosophy. Also, China has slaves and have an entire generation of children who raise themselves because their parents are in factories. Yeah, right. So this was the point I was making, right? You could point to all these things like sweatshops and like child labor and like not many workers' rights, right? So there's like a whole, if you focus on all the worst things about China, you get the impression that China is just a horrible place. If you focus on all the good, you're like, wait a minute. But same goes with America, right? Like they focus on the bad. They're like, what's it, 50,000 homeless people in LA, 30,000 people killed a year from gun violence, right? Like, so that's what they're focusing on. And then US toppling regimes and stuff. So again, it's all a matter of perspective. It's just not that black and white. What I will say is they have elevated the most people out of poverty, I believe, in the history of the world. I believe. I mean, just based on population, but they've done an excellent job creating a very strong middle class from a lower class. Also, this was a stat I read in 2012, so the time is relevant. Between the year 2000 and 2012, they poured more cement than the United States did in the 20th century, right? That was like the level of their growth. And I said cement. I always get confused between cement and concrete. They're actually not the same. I looked it up recently. It's either pouring more cement or concrete. And maybe if somebody here knows the difference, you could explain it to us. Something about cement is made out of concrete. Cement is concrete mixed with some other stuff. There's something like that. Something like that. I'm sure we got a good blue collar worker here watching after a hard day at work, getting their content consumption on. Maybe they could respond. Why am I getting this itchy nose again? I started getting an itchy nose every time I stream. Hella confused. What I learned today, Adar was in military prison for 10 days. Yeah, damn right. I was talking about it on stream the other day. I'll tell you the full story one time. I'll tell you just one bit of it. I had a friend who was in the interrogation unit, and I didn't know he was involved because he wasn't allowed to be part of the process because he knew me personally. But after we both got released, he told me, he's like, just so you know, your interrogator came to me in tears because of how much trouble you were giving to her, and said that out of 150 interrogations she conducted, you were the most difficult she had to deal with. So that is one of the greatest senses of pride that I live my life with, you know? If I had a resume, I mean, I've actually never had a resume in my life. If I had a resume, though, that would be on it for sure. Yeah, Fahad, you are on. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I have a cat. Never been allergic to cats, but this is the second stream where I get this like allergic reaction. Do we have a doctor watching right now? Maybe a doctor that specializes in allergies could tell me what the hell's going on right now. Sophie hits us with the Free Palestine. I'll put that up. Yeah, Fahad, you're on Discord. We should. I'd love to have you on for a session. I want to hear about how things are going. So Fahad's our friend from Gaza. He left Gaza a few weeks or months before October 7th, but tragically has lost family members and friends, many. So Fahad, I actually had a question that I was talking to, speaking to a friend about this today, and there's been a fair bit of Gazans that have given numbers like losing 60 family members. And some people find that hard to believe, that how do you lose 60 family members? So this was my interpretation of it, and let me know if you find this to be correct. So first of all, there's big families, right? If you have like 8 siblings and they have an average of 5 to 8 children or whatever, I think I'm probably a little high on the average there, but let's say 5 siblings and they each have 5 children, after 2-3 generations, you have this massive family. Like even me, if you include my parents, uncles, cousins, and my cousins' children, we're already at around like 70 or 80. So I can understand how you get these really big families, but how do you lose 60? So is the situation where a lot of these families are living in the same building or in the same neighborhood, and then there could be an airstrike that just destroys that many members in one, or is the families distributed and they're being hit in multiple locations? What's your sense on that? Because I've heard quite a few people at this point lose 50 plus, 60 plus family members. Or is it also, how is family in this context being defined? Fahed says all of the above. Okay, that was my take on it. Another thing about China, if you were there, you couldn't speak against your country or leaders as if. Yeah. There's not the same. You don't have like First Amendment rights, for sure. First Amendment's pretty damn great, huh? Although Israel, questionable on the. I mean, Israel doesn't have a constitution, and Israel has been pretty authoritarian on free speech, primarily since October 7th. I mean, they've been arresting Palestinian citizens of Israel for speaking out against the war, for showing sympathy for Gazan children. I don't know to what rate they're doing that anymore, but they've been doing things that would put them very low on a global scale in terms of free speech. I would say for like a Jew like me, living in Israel, I have a pretty high level of free speech, but I'm not sure to what extent. Like, for example, they say that October 7th denial has been outlawed in Israel, right? But they don't explain what this means. What's October 7th denial mean, right? No one denies that it happened, but if people question some of the claims, and they didn't define what it means, right? So that's a pretty serious erosion of free speech in Israel. Michael Lavati says, but the average Israeli isn't afraid of being disappeared. That's true, but I do know Palestinian citizens of Israel have a far higher degree of fear of this. But you're right, Jewish Israelis do not have that fear of their government. Yeah, that's true. There was a funny clip the other day, and I'm not saying this is law. I think the comp was just pretty dumb, but there were these anti-war protesters. I think they were protesting the Israel's aggression in Iran, and the police was saying, "You guys need to leave here." And she's like, "You're wearing an end the war shirt. That's illegal." And then everybody's like, "What?" They were laughing at her and mocking her because they found it so silly that she would say something. And they're like, "What law? Tell me what law that was." So I'm not saying that's a law, but it's a funny anecdote that's kind of connected to what we're saying, that the cop was trying to tell them they're not allowed to wear an end the war shirt. That's pretty wild. No, I'm saying nonsense. That's not true. They arrested people for openly supporting Hamas, and the murder of Israelis. Not. We could pull up cases. That's not what I recall. It was for much less than that. Let me give you an example. There was a teacher who would upload TikTok dances every day, and on October 7th, she also uploaded a dance, and then they came and arrested her. They literally showed up to her home and arrested her. So it's not just support for Hamas. Supporting the murder of Israelis, you could see that as incitement. I understand that's different, but I think that's not what the arrests were for. But we could pull up. We could pull this. We could pull this up. Let's see. Give me a list of Israelis that have been arrested for speech since August 7th, and what exactly. This is why LLMs are just so fun. I would not be able to research this in real time, but we'll get a little list. Bicep says your washing machine load is almost done. It's doing the spin dry cycle. You know what? It's been going on the whole time, huh? Did I just affect the quality of the stream with my washing machine? Oh, why did I not think about that? But you're right. It is almost done. Thanks for letting me know. I hope that wasn't annoying you all this whole time. I wasn't even thinking about it. Sophie's saying it was bothering her. Damn. Okay, no. But again, a TikTok dance on October 7th, 2024, when you're uploading TikTok dances daily, that's some authoritarian bullshit, my guy. Like, I don't think we should try to excuse that. There was a girl who showed sympathy for Gazans. No, she wasn't arrested, but she was bullied in school and then had to leave school. That's not a legal thing. That's a cultural thing. But let's see what the LLM put. Okay. Professor Nadira Shaloub, and feel free to fact check me on all of this, but what she said on Channel 14 interview, in another form, she described Israel's action in Gaza as genocide and cast doubt on reports of sexual violence. She was suspended from her post and arrested on April 18th and interrogated, home searched, released on bail the next day. So yeah, that's not supporting violence. Meir Baruchin, this is a Jewish guy, a Facebook post expressing empathy towards Palestinians and condemning civilian deaths in Gaza. Arrested and briefly placed in solitary confinement, investigated for public disturbance and intent to betray the state. Israel Frey, also a Jew, tweeted that Palestinians who attack Israeli soldiers' settlers should not be considered terrorists but heroes. Oh, okay, this is a different angle. Wait, hold on. Should not be considered terrorists. Israel, okay. Either earlier also prayed for Gaza victims and questioned narratives about Hamas rapes. Wait, I'm seeing two things. Palestinians who attack is... Oh, my bad. Okay. He said, Palestinians who attack soldiers and settlers should not be considered, and also question narratives about rape. He was detained in 2020. This was 2022, interesting. No, that doesn't make sense. Oh, this was for something else. He was again arrested in March 2025 for suspected incitement. Arab Israeli citizens and students, over 270 Palestinian citizens of Israel were arrested since October 7th in relation to social media posts or political statements deemed supportive of Palestinians or critical of Israeli policy. Yeah, no, it's not it's far worse than what you're saying. It's bad. I mean, that's some third world country shit right there. And I don't even know if that's a fair description. I imagine some third world countries probably have some level of free speech above that, but that's authoritarian as fuck, you know. Hold on, let me plug this in. You know who else is doing that shit? England. You know, in England, you get arrested for social media posts. Wild times, you know? Wild times. Sean is saying, have you heard Army and Shabak? Shabak is the Israeli version of the CIA, or Israeli equivalent of the CIA, now using your private security cam footage with no need for permission. Crazy. I did not hear that, but that would not surprise me at all. Do we think Israel is more or less authoritarian than Russia in present time? I would say less, still significantly less. Yeah. I mean, Russia, I mean, you smoke weed, you're fucked, you know? But if you want to look at it beyond just like consumption of THC and other substances, like in terms of free speech, I imagine it's probably still worse, but this is not something that I've looked into. I didn't realize how strict Russia was with weed. My first time flying to Moscow, is there any risk of admitting this on here? No, probably not. Okay. I got upgraded to business class, and I had a THC pen, and I was smoking it on the plane, thinking like, what's the worst that could happen? And then I understood the worst that could happen is many months in prison and a diplomatic crisis where the U.S. or Israel would need to negotiate my release. Damn. But nothing happened. Also, it's interesting. I think I've shared this before. So I have phases throughout the year where I'm smoking. Other times I'm completely sober. Like right now, I'm fully sober. Maybe the astute viewer might notice a difference in my energy when I'm in these states and I'm in the other states. One way to tell also is how frequently I live stream. If I go a few weeks without live streaming, I'm probably in my phases when I'm smoking, just so you all know. But I've always found it part of the cultural experience to get weed in other countries and see what that's all about. The only country I did not do this in was China. I think probably for good reason. But in Moscow, it's fascinating. You need to go to the dark web, right? Through like a Tor browser, and you need to pay in Bitcoin, and then you say the location that you're in, and then you'll be sent a photo and an address. They hide it for you in some remote location, and you need to go get it. You don't meet a person ever. You don't see a person. You just find it somewhere. So it could be like 4th floor of this apartment complex on top of the AC unit, or on the side of this building, magnet stuck inside the drainage pipe. So I was there for like a good month and doing this, going to different locations to pick up. It was very interesting. And then you could pick on the website like how you want it. There's different ways to get it, like hidden, buried is one option, but I didn't read Russian, so I didn't always get the right option. So there was this one time when I was coming home from like an outing. It was 3 a.m. and I ordered some weed, and I guess I clicked the buried option. So I had to go and dig it up. So I had the taxi driver pull over on the side of the road where it's supposedly buried, and it's raining. And I'm literally digging through the mud at 3 a.m. I don't know if the taxi driver had any idea what I was doing. I ended up not even finding it, but that was a pretty interesting experience. But I was very motivated. So I went all the way back to my hotel, ordered another one, and then went and picked it up. And got back at like 5:30 a.m. But man on a mission. For good and for bad, right? You know, like sometimes your strengths are also your weaknesses. Being motivated to achieve your goal is a great strength, but if you're digging through mud at 3 a.m., you know, maybe not the best life choices. But hey, character building. Oh, Fahad, this is interesting. Fahad says, for your information, smoking weed is common in Gaza, even though it's far more dangerous than Russia. Okay, it's common. And what happens if you get caught? And where does it come from? Is it grown within Gaza, or is it smuggled from someplace like Egypt? And if it's smuggled, is it hash or is it actual weed? That's actually fascinating. Exactly. No, Shabak is FBI, Mossad is CIA. Yeah. Did somebody say otherwise? I didn't see where someone said otherwise. You're saying in Russia you can't publicly criticize or mock Putin. So I don't know. That might be true. So you're saying from Egypt mostly? Okay, that was my guess. And so is it hash? I mean, look, when it's smuggled, it's either it's going to be hash or it's brickweed. It's compressed really, really tight. That's the shitty stuff. But okay, maybe there's a market opportunity at play, huh? You know, back in the day in Israel, like now it's decriminalized and you have medical marijuana and you have a very strong industry where you get homegrown stuff that's very high quality, comparable to what you could get in the US. Maybe not as much variety than in the US. You know, America is big on consumerism, a lot of everything, but definitely quality these days. But back in the day, a lot of it was smuggled. It was Hezbollah hash. Like that's at least it was called. Like Hezbollah was making money smuggling hash into Israel. Yeah, Fahed saying it's the brick stuff. Yeah, brickweed. Probably has seeds, I would imagine. If it has, if it has seeds, it ain't good. You guys know the science behind that? I imagine I don't know how many people here are interested in this conversation, so we can move on to more serious things. But maybe a break from the heavy stuff is nice. So the female is is what is smokable, what has THC. The male is hemp, that you can make clothing, textiles, right? It's great for textiles. Now, if a female is grown without a male, she produces THC as a way to attract a male. So the best, highest quality weed is going to be females growing alone, not next to males. So if it all grows wildly in a field, it has males and it doesn't need to produce the THC to attract the male. So when you see weed with seeds, it means it was next to a male and didn't need to produce all that THC. So seeds being present in weed is going to be a sign that the quality is not that good. Llama says, we were smoking their hash and they were smoking us. That's funny. Not until recently they got smoked pretty hard out. Sophie says, when is the next live, please? I like your lives and truth about Palestine. Well, there's this one. You're saying the next one after this. Let's see. I'm gonna head to Tel Aviv tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe I'll live stream sometime this weekend. If not, then you could expect it on Monday. Actually, Shael Ben Ephraim. I don't know if y'all know him, but Shael's gonna do a conversation for the Discord community, and that will be live streamed as well. So definitely Monday and definitely next Wednesday. Perhaps one this weekend as well. Sean's saying my dad grows his own in Jerusalem. Cool. Have you all seen the brand new Stalin statue in Moscow? No, I did not. Let's look that up. By the way, I'm going to do 30 more minutes. I know people have asked me to do some video reviews. So if there's any video that's like 10, 15 minutes that you want me to look at, I'm happy to do a review of that. Stalin statue, Russia. Well, it seems like there's a Wikipedia page called List of Stalin Statues. Okay, so there's a lot of them. So I need to know which one. New. Why is Stalin back in the Moscow metro? New Stalin monument. Okay, I found it. Huh. Well, this is the thing. Look, so I was only in Moscow. And the subway in Moscow is by far the most beautiful I've ever seen. It's like a tourist attraction. So I guess this is where you're talking about. Oh yeah, this is wild. So yeah, this is what the subways look like. We'll find. Let's pull up some. Oh, I didn't show it. I always forget to pull it up. Boom. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Sam Bland says, let's finally set up ours. I also enjoy all your lives. Maybe review Tucker, Cruz interview, a shorter version. Okay, I actually did not get to watch that yet, besides one scene where Tucker was grilling him on where in the Bible it says you should support current Israel, and Cruz stumbled hard. But yeah, Sam, I'd love to set up a stream with you. We also need to catch up on things in general. So I will ping you, and let's get that in the books, maybe even for next week. For those who don't know, Sam is a Palestinian friend of mine who currently lives in LA. He's been on one stream before. He's also an advisor at Head On. Great guy. So yeah, Sam, I'd love to do that. Elvis says, first day here. Congrats on the content. Awesome. Always cool to see a new viewer. And yeah, you know, I'm not like a traditional YouTuber, but smash that subscribe button, I think, is what you're meant to say. I think the analytics showed that like 50 or something % of viewers are subscribers. Guys, come on. It costs you nothing. If you subscribe, it helps the algorithm. You know, let's get this content out there. Share with your friends. Send it to your grandma. Let's mix things up a little bit. This is like the place you come for calm, collected nuance. Ooh, I think we may have branded something new. That's the slogan. Let's see what we have happening in Discord. Okay, we're getting a lot of intel on the cannabis scene. Noam is saying, as someone living next to the Lebanon border. Oh, you're talking to me. I do live next to the Lebanon border now, yeah. You could easily see an extremely stark shift from 2006 on our local weed hash market. 2006 being when Israel pulled out of Lebanon. Wait, no, didn't we pull out? Wait, no, 2006 we had the war, but we pulled out long before. I'd be interested in hearing more about that, Noam. You're saying you saw a shift after 2006? I remember seeing the shift probably in the like 2010, 11 era, like right after when I got released from the army. I think I started seeing a shift. Critical thinking over doctrine says also press thumbs up. Yes, for sure. Give that a thumb. Yeah, I actually do want to review the Tucker thing, but I think it's probably pretty long. Let's see. Okay, I actually see Rudy Rothman dropped the video. Let's see what Rudy's up to. He dropped a video about Iran a few minutes ago. Let's review this.
The revolution isn't coming, it's already here. This is my response to Iran. The world has been talking about Israel and Iran clashing for over 40 years, and now it's finally happening before our eyes. But it doesn't have to end in destruction. It could become a turning point for unity. Historically, Israel and Iran were not enemies. We shared much respect. Go back to the days of Cyrus the Great, a Persian king who helped rebuild the Jewish temple in Jerusalem. Or even not too long ago, just before the brutal revolution where the modern state of Israel and Iran had great relations. But today, the regime in Iran uses hatred towards Israel in an attempt to subjugate the Muslim world. They do it under the banner of Islam. But let me remind you, in Islam, the Bani Israel, the children of Israel, are recognized as the people of the book. And the land of Israel, it was promised to us over and over by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Ayatollahs shooting ballistic missiles at Israeli civilians is not retaliation, as Iran launched hundreds of missiles at Israel a year ago and has been sponsoring terrorism around the world for decades. I remember clearly driving from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem when all of Iran's rockets fell from the sky. I saw Hashem's miracles in front of my own eyes. The only person killed that night was unfortunately a Palestinian man crushed by the debris from Iran's own rockets. So much for caring for my Palestinian cousins that you claim to fight in their name. Let's not forget who started this. Iran arms and funds terror groups like Hezbollah, the Houthis, and of course Hamas. Before there were airstrikes, there were suicide bombings, kidnappings, and massacres. Yes, Israel has targeted Iranian military sites, but Iran regimes specifically targets Israeli civilians. That's the difference. Civilians do sometimes get caught in the crossfires. That is the tragedy of war, and why when the smoke settles, we have to do everything in our power to fix the problems before it gets to the outcome of war. But in practice, Israel warns populations before strikes. Israel drops leaflets, sends messages, gives time, while the IRGC aims to kill as many as possible. There is a moral gap so wide.
Okay, I mean this is lame. I'm sorry, Rudy. That's just the husbara. Like what? I don't know. Rudy's a friend. I don't want to trash him, but like that's just the husbara video. And look, he's a content creator. Everybody wants to make content that's currently relevant. Interestingly, even Israeli officials are saying 90% of the ballistic missiles Iran shot were at military bases. Again, I don't know, like, if you want to take their word for it, 90%, they're not going to underestimate the number. They might, like, if they're saying 10% were towards civilians, it's likely not more. It could be less. But like, all this moral high ground bullshit, bro. Israel just killed 16,000 children in Gaza. Rudy's been cheering on the operation in Gaza. He did a propaganda video where he sat in like some in New York saying, "I served in Gaza, let's talk," and was just saying how it was just propaganda. And I'm sorry. And Rudy, if you watch this, you know, you are my friend. I'd love to have you on for a conversation about this, but this is it's just bullshit. It's just bullshit. And again, we can't keep hiding behind intentionality when we're just overwhelmingly killing civilians. Like on the first day of the attack, we killed 20 children. 20 children in one day in Iran. So get off your high horse. I don't buy this shit, but whatever. We'll watch the whole thing. And again, this isn't a defense of Iran. I don't, obviously I want to see the regime collapse, but like, I just don't buy this. We're so virtuous, they're so evil. Nah, son.
Only willful blindness could ignore it. Maybe it's just Hashem hardening the world's hearts to wake something up inside of us all. And the leaders who dare speak for Iran, what they want is world domination, and Israel is just a stepping stone in their imagination to get there. Former leader Ahmadinejad often called for Israel to be wiped off the map, even tried denying the Holocaust. Other officials have called Jews cancerous growths and described October 7th as logical and legal. Is that who you want leading the Muslim world? To the people of Iran, we are not your enemies. Many of you already know this. Many of you already feel this. Many of us do too. There is an ancient bond between our people, one that tyrants fear. Bizrat Hashem, inshallah, may you free yourselves from this regime and build a republic that honors life over death, freedom over tyranny, and light over darkness. May we see a Middle East rise again, unified not by conquest, but by common origin and purpose. A future where Persians, Arabs, Jews, Palestinians, Armenians, Copts, Assyrians, Kurds, Yazidis, Chaldeans, Druze, Bedouins, Maronites, Mandeans, Samaritans, Zoroastrians, all of us find our place. The revolution isn't coming. It's already here. It's now time to shift the culture, to fight for a future we can all believe in, and to remember who we are.
That's a very interesting way to end it. Look, I'll say it again. I like Rudy. I consider him a friend. I also think a lot of the way he positions messages, I respect, but here's where we just don't see eye to eye at all. Also, that's not the kind of video that's going to change the single Iranian's mind. Like, Iran does not like the regime. Like, what's the call to action there? I don't think this seems like more content that people might view now. Like, often most activists, most content creators in the activism space, right? I'm not talking about like lifestyle content creators. They're not asking themselves, how can I change people's minds? How can I have an impact? That's not the question. That's how can I get views? This is the kind of thing that, yeah, many Israelis might share around. I don't think this has any interest for Iranians. Like, maybe a few, but I don't see it convincing new people. It's not positioned that way. It's not compelling, but you could see that getting view amongst like his supporters. But I'll tell you where I do like how he, you know, when he talks about Israel, Palestine, even though his views are adjacent to some like far right people who just want one state, one Jewish state, because that is what he supports. He's not about demonizing Palestinians. He doesn't talk about ethnic cleansing. He says Israel needs to take responsibility and do more. So in that regard, I think he's onto something, but he's also very hesitant to give true criticism of Israel. So he'll say, yeah, we need to do more, but he's not calling out the war crimes in Gaza. He's calling for a continuation. He says we need to continue. There's been no shortage of war crimes. He's not a thing about that, you know. So Anyways. Yeah, so let's talk more about Iranian missile strikes, because I don't want, like, it's very hard to know. Here's the challenge, right? When it comes to their missile strikes. You did mention they hit Weizmann Institute. That's true. That's civilian infrastructure, and that constitutes a war crime. The way they justified it was saying there's research for military stuff. They work with the IDF. Interestingly, this is how Israel justified bombing universities in Gaza, okay, just to show that parallel. But it's not okay. That doesn't make it okay. The reason it's challenging to understand the direction of their strikes is that there's military bases all over Israel, some major ones and some minor ones. These missiles have some radius. They're not the most accurate. So they're able to maintain plausible deniability on their strikes. I'm not saying they're not shooting any at civilians. That's not the claim I'm making. I'm putting that on the record. But they're able to shoot at civilian areas and still maintain plausible deniability because there's bases scattered everywhere, and most of them are near cities, and they don't have the best accuracy. It's not all too different from Israel's plausible deniability in Gaza, right? They say we're not targeting civilians, we're targeting Hamas, but we're not able to hit Hamas without hitting civilians. They could sum it up to a lack of capabilities of hitting Hamas without killing civilians. They maintain plausible deniability. Not on all attacks. There's some attacks that I don't think the plausible deniability is quite there, but that's essentially how they've maintained plausible deniability, that they're not attacking civilians the past 2 years. Iran could do the same exact thing. They're like, yeah, I mean, we're sorry, we didn't mean to hit that building. Why do you have all these military bases in cities, you know? And this is not as much as defense as just that I want us to be able to like recognize things honestly. And here's the interesting thing. Israelis recognize that they're overwhelmingly going towards bases. It's the Hasbaristas online that are saying they're only solely targeting civilians with the trying to kill as many civilians as possible. That's like a Hasbara argument that you see on Twitter. That's less so what we're hearing in Israeli society. So and some Israeli officials again said 90% were at military bases. Anyways, Michael is saying, Sean's saying he's cute in the most cringe way possible. Yeah, I mean, Rudy's definitely a handsome man. Probably helps him to a large degree in his public advocacy space. Sean, are you giving this assessment from like the perspective of a straight man or from a gay man? Michael's saying there's never a war without crimes. It says so in the Torah itself. Interesting. I didn't. Where can you pull up that passage or let me know what it says? That's pretty interesting. You're right, but again, that doesn't mean it's okay. Like you still need to. There needs to be accountability. We should like a soldier committing a war crime is unavoidable in war. I would agree. Systemic war crimes that are commanded from above, that does not need to happen. And when individual soldiers are committing war crimes, having a high degree of accountability is important. Israel doesn't have that. So, you know, why is it so hard for Israelis to pronounce Hamas properly? Yeah, look, I just grew up saying Hamas, you know, with the Hebrew cha. I do need to learn how to say it the more Arabic way. I just, it's so hard to say the Arabic Hamas. Yeah, I need to work on it. Hamas. Can my Arab friends let me know how I'm doing on this? Hamas. No, I'm saying I think Iranian missiles just randomly happen to hit Weitzman. Interesting. I don't know. They've been like they seem to maybe have hit the Shmonimatayim building. They hit the Kiryas supposedly. They've hit bases. They have successfully hit a fair bit of bases. Was Weitzman a mistake? Maybe. And you're saying that's two different types of reasoning of plausible deniability. There's some differences, but I don't see it as all too big of a difference. But I'm happy to hear you make the case. Does the 90% include drones because reportedly 1,000 drones were launched? I'm not sure how they got that assessment, honestly. Yeah, no, I think you're giving me the right solution. I just need to start saying Hamas. 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 Yeah. Okay, guys, you hear it now. I'm making a public declaration. I'm never saying Hamas again. It's Hamas until I could learn to say it the Arabic way. Sean saying, no, cute in his views even. Oh, but cringe as fuck. I'm straight. Like, ultimately, he has good intentions. I agree. That's why, like, it's always... I'm always conflicted, right? Because, like, some of what I do is debunking people and calling people out. And I definitely am much more lenient on my friends, you know? Because the last thing I want to do is sit here and trash a friend. But it's challenging when a friend is in the public commentary space and advocacy space and you fundamentally disagree. At the end of the day, I need to stay true to you know, to who I am and what I believe. So I hope I was able to do that. The criticism was soft enough. But yeah, okay. And it just it is interesting, right? Because all the people who I do rail on hard, like I call out John Spencer and Natasha Hausdorff and Andrew Fox and Eisenberg, like I'm railing on them every day, and I'm almost grateful that I don't have a personal relationship with them because I wouldn't even want to have that conflict. Although some people are so deep in the propaganda that I don't have any respect for them. I lose all respect for people who are just blatant disseminators of misinformation that maybe even had I had a personal relationship with John Spencer, I wouldn't give him a freebie on this. I need to think about that a little bit more. Yeah, where them super chats at? That's my new goal. At least one super chat per stream. No, I'm gonna bring you on.
Hi. Hi.
Hey, Noam, what's up?
Well, I wouldn't say everything is fine, but going.
Going, yeah.
I know Arabic has a nice expression for it, mashi, which means literally going.
Mashi?
But yeah.
Mashi, okay. How's it going? It's going. You could say that in English as well. Yeah, I think cool.
I think in Hebrew it makes more sense.
You could say Ken Maolech, Holech. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Anyway, I think about I don't know my reasoning with the plausible deniability with Iran. It's that their missiles are imprecise, so they might hit civilians. With the IDF, I think it's they know that they cannot hit Hamas without hitting civilians, and not because of imprecision, but because of where Hamas is. So it's two different types of plausible deniability.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I meant.
Oh, in that sense, I agree completely. They're not exactly the same. They're the same in the sense that you can say we are targeting combatants, but because of a lack of capabilities that we possess, we're not able to without without hitting civilians. So there's clearly a distinction, but in that sense, they're pretty comparable. What you could say is, well, okay, if your missiles aren't accurate enough, then you're not allowed to shoot them. But I would say, okay, well, if you can't kill Hamas without killing dozens of children while doing so, then you can't do it either. Again, they're different, but I don't think they're worlds apart.
Also,
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
Israel has like around the Kiryat, the military base or other military bases next to civilian towns. I don't think anyone honest would really say that they don't expect, like people living in the Kiryat are aware of the risk that they might get hit, and they're not going to say that or complain about it the same way that what happens in Gaza when it's also not exactly the same, because in Gaza it's entrenched in the civilian infrastructure, or it's under civilian infrastructure. And there, those people have a choice. In Tel Aviv, those people just have a choice of not living there. And if they live there, then they were aware of the risk. You see what I mean? I mean,
yeah. No.
certainly
For
would,
yeah, sure. But that's not, online. That's people are still saying, like, the narrative online is that they are targeting solely civilians and trying to kill as many civilians as possible. I don't think that's clear based on what we're seeing at all. But I think it's possible that they are trying to kill civilians while maintaining plausible deniability, right? I think that's certainly possible. Yeah. Okay.
I think it's clear that they're not targeting only civilians. Anyone who says that, it's just he knows that, or they know that it's not true. It's just propaganda.
Right.
Maybe they're
well, I guess only
civilian areas.
Yeah, I guess only is hard to. It's going to be hard to defend because we know that bases have been attacked. But I guess primarily, like, what's the focus? Where are they? Most of them being sent, and I think again, most are being sent towards military bases, if not all. And then there's some that just fall pretty far. Like, I'll give you an example, right? Why do I think some of them just aren't accurate? I don't see it. It makes no sense that they would target Tamra, right? The Arab town that got hit. That makes no sense at all. That very well may have been going towards the refinery. One hit the refinery. This one, for whatever reason, fell off. Like, imagine like 1 in 10 ballistic missiles just like fall off way far. That on its own could explain a lot of what we're seeing, of what's not falling outside of the military bases, because overwhelmingly they are in that general vicinity. So it's really hard to assess,
Yeah, Tabora is a good example. I mean, I'm guessing they're not maliciously doing it or trying to create, like, I don't know, like a false flag that to say that, like they did with I think it was Hezbollah in the Golan that hit the Druze, the Syrian Druze village, that is saying, oh, it was an interceptor that hit it. So they're, I mean, intentionally trying to hit Palestinians and to say that it's an Israeli interceptor that hit it. And I don't think it's that. I think that's just, it just happened to be like it.
Actually,
also,
wait, that's actually a good point. We don't know. Do we know if it was a direct hit or if it was actually just intercepted and it was just like shrapnel and stuff? Do we know that?
Yeah, I think it was on video. Like, people from outside of Tamra filmed it, or filmed. Yeah, they filmed a a big ballistic missile striking Tamra.
Okay, so it was a direct hit. Okay, I didn't look.
And you can see the house that got hit. I don't think shrapnel would be able to do it.
Yeah, I actually didn't look into that, but okay, that makes sense.
And also, a couple of days ago, there was a report. I'm following. There's like this. I don't remember the website address, but it's like a live report of Iran. It shows actually Iran and Israel, where you have alarms and where you have rockets falling or launches and things like that. And then one of them had like an independent Iranian news agency reporting that a drone or a missile hit Tartus in Syria, which is on the coast, but all across Lebanon, which looks like I can't believe it's a drone, because drones know where they're going. And it's hard. I don't know if it was a missile. It didn't report on any damage, but it reported that it happened. Maybe it's unrelated, but it reported that it happened. And nothing hit Lebanon. Nothing hit Jordan. I think, other than shrapnel.
Right. From things shot down. Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, it's all the way nearly to Turkey.
Right.
Closer to Turkey than to Israel. So I don't know what that could be.
Interesting. It's hard to make sense of it all. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that. I appreciate that. So we do have a few more questions here.
Welcome.
Yeah. No. I mean, you could stay on if you want. There are questions coming in, so I'll be doing Q&A as well. But you could chime in if you want. Harry Potter says, "Bro, when the war ends, time passes, you will be remembered on the right side of history." I like to think so, you know? Like when I decide to do what I'm going to do, it's not about how I'll be remembered. I think legacy is I think on a very human level, it's not that I don't think about it at all, but I realize how meaningless it is, because, you know, everything I ever do will be forgotten at some point. Everybody who ever heard my name will one day die. Everybody who heard their name will one day die. So we shouldn't get too caught up on legacy, but I do what I do because I feel like it's the right thing to do. And I'd like to think that the world will move in a direction where doing what I currently believe to be the right thing is remembered that way. And my sense is that, you know, as time passes, what Israel did in Gaza is going to be solidified as absolutely atrocious and not okay. And it is going to be interesting to see if there's any like social repercussions to those in support of it. Caitlin Johnstone wrote an interesting, you all know Caitlin Johnstone? I don't agree with, I don't know why I need to preface it like that. That's just like a fear-based preface. There's nobody I agree with 100%, so I'm not even going to preface it with that. Unless maybe somebody really problematic, I would need to preface it like that. But she wrote something interesting today. And I really like her writing, despite some of her disagreements. Oh, also, I noticed something interesting. Hold on. I know I'm going ADHD on us now, but it's funny when I go to this YouTube, when I go to YouTube on my Brave account, which is the Grateful Giraffes YouTube, it's showing this live stream. That's funny. We could make something really, if I open this right now, it'll probably make the most annoying noise ever. Should we try? Is that like doing a loop? No. Why does that sound normal? I figured it would create like a wah, 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 wah. Maybe not. Oh. Whatever. That's literally one of the cringiest things I've ever seen anybody do. Watch their own live stream while they're live. Anyways. Oh, no, that's not working. Present, share screen, Caitlin. Caitlin wrote, I think it's relevant to what we're saying. Now, so her framing, her words, like this might be triggering to some people, so I'm warning you. Do Israel supporters know it's over for them? Like they know they're going to be despised for the rest of their lives, right? That they will never ever live down the fact that they supported a live stream genocide and that it'll only get worse as history clarifies things. Surely they must realize this by now. Surely they must realize that nothing they do for the rest of their lives will ever be as significant as the fact that they played cheerleader for genocide and all of Israel's demented warmongering long after normal people realized it was the wrong thing to do. That in the eyes of the world, they will all always be, first and foremost, someone who supported and defended history's first live stream genocide. I wonder what that's like, knowing about that about yourself. Is that, if that was me, maybe I'd be pushing for World War III as well. I don't know. Maybe I'd hope we could turn the whole world into Gaza and let the flames wash away human memory of things we had done, that enough death and destruction spread across Earth, enough of the Earth would make my crimes look small in comparison or something. It won't work, though. Everyone's always going to remember what they did. Their grandchildren will be disgusted by them. Their families will carry their shame for generations. What a terrible way to be. So I'll put it this way. I think she's wrong in saying that people supporting Israel know this and they recognize this to be the case. Where I don't think she's wrong is that I think there is a decent chance that that is how it will be remembered. And those cheering this on, supporting it, lending cover for it, it will always be used against them, and there will be some cost. I think there's a pretty good chance that's the case, but I guess time will tell.
I personally think that it would happen regardless, and it would also happen to people, to Israelis who publicly oppose the war. They would still get lumped up together with all the rest.
Interesting. I don't know. Not maybe. At the very least, I have a lot of public commentary on not supporting it, so we'll see if I get a pass. None of this is what motivates me, but it'd be interesting. What I could see, though, I'll tell you what I could see. Because I served in the IDF, that is something that very likely could be used against me forever, right? Like serving in the IDF, and then I mean, I guess it's over a decade after I got out from the IDF, but that's not all too long. The IDF did something unforgivable. I could see that being used against me. And there are still people, right? Like I have
Like Bad Empanada.
Exactly. I mean, and his crew, his followers. Like, I have people, some haters on the pro-Palestine side that are not Palestinian. They're generally anonymous basement dwellers, but they hate me because I served in the IDF. And Bad Empanada is kind of like their ringleader. Even he's a little bitch, honestly. I challenged him to debate and he didn't. Harry Potter saying, do you wish to speak with somebody from West Bank? Yeah, I'd love to. I'm always looking to speak to more Palestinians, meeting more Palestinians. Would also love to invite them to the Head On Discord community. By the way, for those watching who are not in the community yet, y'all got to get your asses in there, because that's where it happens. We have Israelis, Palestinians, people from all over the world. Let's see. No, since you're on Discord, feel free to let me know if there's comments coming in, because it's sometimes hard for me to follow it all. Harry Potter is asking, is DNA test banned in Israel? I looked into this briefly. There's some restriction on it. I don't really know why, but I don't think it's what people are making it out to be. There's enough Ashkenazi DNA available to see that we have Levantine DNA. The whole claim is that they're banned in Israel in order for Jews to not know that they don't have any Levantine DNA. I think that's baseless, because the DNA we do have from Ashkenazis, right? You have Ashkenazis getting DNA tests all over the world. It's, they have Bronze Age Levant DNA. So if it is, it's not illegal. There are some restrictions, but it's not for the reason people are saying it is. Mosh is saying today's live stream was interesting. Yeah, thank you. Glad you enjoyed.
Yuri is asking about would Palestinians feel similar. So what about other point of view? Palestinians will admit they were wrong and feel endless shame. Well, wrong and endless shame are two different things, I think. I think Palestinian activists, yes. Non-Palestinian outsider activists, probably not.
It really depends how history is written. Yeah, it's hard to know. I mean, I could see people cheering on October 7th as that being like a bad mark against you. But like the thing is that October 7th has been drowned out by Israel's response, so it just pales in comparison. It's they're worlds apart. That won't be people's focus,
By the way, I posted that live map website in the Discord chat that I used, and apparently I've read more sources that it was a drone that hit Tartus in Syria, an Iranian drone, and it actually killed someone.
Oh, this is interesting.
So, and
what is this? Where things
weird.
were hit? Air raid sirens.
Live map. It's everything. It's where they're hit, where there are sirens.
Oh, cool.
I think even where, and you can switch between different countries.
The user experience is a little sketchy, but okay, I'll play around with this. This is cool. This is cool.
Feels a bit like GeoCities from 30 years ago.
Yeah, something like that. Something like. With AI today, there's no excuse to not have a better user experience. Critical thinking over doctrine says at the very least you give us a community. Are you on Discord? Do I know you on Discord under a different name? Bro, do you know Saluki? Yeah, I've been meaning to reach out to Saluki. I hear he lives in Ramallah now. I definitely want to connect with him and get him on and even do some content together. So stay tuned. We will get Saluki here at some point. Lama says shelter time. See you soon. Stay safe. So I guess it's not in the north. Autovan says it would be nice to have Saluki. Yeah, we'll get Saluki on for a live stream. Critical thinking over doctrine says, actually, let's get the comments back on stream because there's a lot. Yeah, what you're saying is true that all Jews will certainly pay some price for Israel's actions now. And, people have a hard time kind of separating between people and the state they belong to, or the Jewish state doing something in the name of Jewish protection. But I think it's beyond that. I think that overwhelmingly Jews are either supportive of Israel's actions or they're turning a blind eye. There's not all too many who are vocal against it. And there's no way that this doesn't impact how people feel about Jews. It's just, there's no world in how that this doesn't affect public sentiment. And if people are struggling to, maybe if a Jew listening to this might not understand how this translates, just think, let's say that overwhelmingly the only Muslims you interacted with were supporters of terrorism. They were just supporting the killing of civilians, and they had some justification, or they were engaged in misinformation to continue supporting an atrocity. And this was your experience with Muslims across the board. Once in a while, you'd get one courageous one that would speak out against. That obviously is going to contribute to Islamophobia. There's no world in which that doesn't. And what's interesting is when you get see that one that courageous Muslim speaking out against terrorism, you view him as courageous, as a hero. You revere that person. But when a Jew does that, speaking out against the state of Israel, then you see them as a traitor and a capo. It's interesting, right? Pay attention to that double standard. Adar, do you agree that bad empanada is anti-Semitic? Yeah, I think that's probably a fair assessment. But that's what I'm saying. It's like, I think we need to be clear. I think we need to define anti-Semitism a little bit differently, right? There's this idea that Jews are inferior and that we're here to enslave the Gentiles, and we're blamed for all these different things like 9/11. I think that's more like an ideological anti-Semitism, and then there's like having some kind of prejudice against Jews because of your experience with Jews. And that's very different. And I think the latter form is much more pervasive and harder to change, and not hard to see how it forms given today's world. Not saying it's okay. We should view people as individuals and not judge them from the group they're from, but like developing prejudice is unavoidable. We all have prejudices towards groups based on our experience. So it's important to like separate between an ideological form of hate, and this isn't only anti-Semitism. You have this with racism, right? There's some people who think Black people are inferior, and we should probably find a way to remove them from America, or we need some segregation, or whatever it may be about Black people. That's very different from like being a little scared if you see a Black person walking at night. Like, one's an ideological thing, one is prejudice. Prejudice is very hard to change, So I think the way to do it is to just really, from a young age, teach people that it's all about the individual, get to know the individual, treat people with dignity and respect, get to know them, and then make a judgment about them. But we can't get rid of prejudices as long as different groups have slightly different behaviors. It's just always going to exist. So I think the ideological forms of hate are the ones we need to be more active and challenging.
Crypto Al is asking to join the stage.
Yeah, let's get Al on here. Real quick, one more thing. Shona Singh, are you keyed into the H3 beef? I saw like something, him and Hassan. I'm really not all connected to that whole streamer world, although I probably should, right? I like, people keep telling me I need to get on these people's shows and do more content with them. The one part of this that I dislike the most is like outreach and booking and stuff. Like, I'd be down to talk to anybody, but the effort that it takes to get on there is not something I've done yet, and probably to my own disadvantage and to the detriment of whatever message I want to spread. So maybe I need to get on that, or maybe one of the viewers wants to help, like even just as a volunteer, and maybe like a few hours a week helping me get on different shows and stuff, or getting them on this show. A lot of people have wanted me to talk to Destiny for years. She's always ignored me. Yeah, I don't know. People seem to not want to talk to me for whatever reason. Anyways, Al, what's up?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. I kind of lost my train of thought while I was waiting to be called on stage. I think the conversation shifted a little bit.
Okay.
But what I was gonna say, like with this discussion we had yesterday with History Speaks, I feel like I'm in this server to learn, and every time I take one step forward, guys like him make me want to take 2 steps back, if you know what I mean. When they start denying Jewish history and just, trying to distance ourselves from the land that it's all made up.
Mm-hmm.
We're all from Poland kind of thing. I just want to see what your thoughts are, because I know you were a little frustrated as well, it seems like, with him yesterday. But you're a little bit more flexible, I guess, to that,
Yeah.
I guess, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know if I would describe it as frustration, but there were parts of what he said that I disagree with, so I pushed back. And I also wanted to represent the frustration of others that I thought probably.
Which I appreciated, by the way. I appreciated it.
Thank you.
But I got the sense that I got is he doesn't like care. Like, the sense is, I don't care what your reasoning is. I don't care. That's the sense I got.
So, of that, I'm not convinced. He seemed receptive to the feedback that Natan gave him. And, again, will this change how he talks about it? I guess let's see. But he seems we've been chatting a lot the past few months, and he seems receptive and open-minded. So I guess let's see. But what I'll tell you about the one step forward, two steps back, I would try really hard to not let others impact our worldview. Like, we could learn from others, but don't let like views you don't like radicalize you, because you're born into a world with no shortage of extremists, and you're gonna die in a world with no shortage of extremists. We can't let extremists shift how we feel about things, right? We should ground our beliefs in what we truly believe to be true, regardless of what those around us are believing. And this is sometimes easier said than done, but I would just like try to keep that in mind. Don't let other people let you take steps back, you know?
Yeah, I just want to mention another thing. I mean, Natan also said that this today as well. He had some, crazy, or he say a lady came in and started shouting in his store, like, death to Jews or something like that, and accusing him of being, you know what I mean?
Oh, damn.
So he's saying, yeah, and I think he's way more liberal than I am. And he says stuff like that makes me want to become right wing, you know what I mean? So it's a genuine notion. Sometimes you feel like maybe the whole world is against us. Like,
Well,
I wish he was here. He probably could give you more.
Yeah.
Information.
I'll put it this way: not the whole world, but I would say that anti-Semitism probably has the greatest imbalance between number of people hated and number of haters, right? Like, for every Jew, you probably have 100 Jew haters. I don't know if there's any other group that has that disproportion of hate, but that's very much connected to us being disproportionately noticeable, right? People are surprised when they find out we're only 0.2% of the world population, 2% of the American population, but because we're disproportionately represented in so many industries of influence, we're noticed much more relative to our population size. But yeah, I mean, this is our battle, you know. This is our battle, building bridges with those who don't like us, showing them another side. But look, as long as Israel's doing what they're doing, that's always going to be fuel on the fire. That's anti-Semitism. I'm not saying this justifies it or excuses it, but we need to recognize what actions fuel hate, you know. And as long as the Jewish state is violating human rights, and this is not being widely condemned by most people who are citizens of that state or support that state, that spills over into hate for that group. Now, I don't even think Jews are unique in this regard. Like, how many Russians are criticizing Russia right now? You know, like, people generally are blindly supportive of their government, pretty universally. So I don't think Jews are unique in this regard, but this is on display, right? The world is focused on Gaza. Most Jews are supportive of Israel's actions. You know, that's certainly having an impact. And again, clearly not, anti-Semitism clearly predates Israel. I mean, it's the reason why Israel was reestablished. So let's be clear, we can't only blame it on that, but there's many factors at play here. And right now, I would say one of the greatest contributors to anti-Semitism is connected to Israel and what they're doing. The other, I would imagine, is connected to social media and the prevalence of like conspiracies and how they spread, and just like misinformation's ability to spread freely. I'd say that probably is also fueling anti-Semitism to a large degree. Shalima,
there are actually quite a lot of Russians that criticize Russia. They're just not inside Russia.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
Okay, interesting. Yeah,
I consider myself kind of Russian. You know, I speak Russian, so, and we're all against the war in Ukraine. You know, so
right, just not from within, right? Okay, but so that would mean
influencers. Influencers that like me, social media influencers that left Russia because they preferred to go on with their social media, which isn't necessarily criticizing Russian, but they did it by the way, and they just left Russia to be able to continue on doing their social media stuff.
Interesting. So I wonder to what degree that exists relative to let's say, anti-Zionist Jews, or even Zionist Jews that have been very critical of Israel. I wonder if it's a similar rate. Al, are
They
you?
don't need to leave Israel.
Right,
They're
no,
doing it from inside Israel.
Right. That's yeah, but I mean the amount of Israelis that are critical of the Israeli government for human rights abuses is very small. There's a strong anti-war protest, but that's more so like return the hostages, stop sending our soldiers to die. It's not you're killing children. But that movement is growing as well within Israeli society, interestingly. Al, are you from the Caucasus? Is that where you're from? Are you a Caucasus guy?
No. From Uzbekistan, Bukharian Jew from Uzbekistan.
Okay, Bukharian. So that's.
But I live in the States,
Yeah, but wait, is that so? That's not the Caucasus, huh? But it's right on the other side of it.
Caucasus. No, Caucasus would be like Georgia.
Yeah.
Armenia type of situation.
Dagestan.
Yeah. Okay. Those are mountain Jews.
Yeah, the mountain. Yeah, I was wondering if you were a mountain Jew. Interestingly, they are partially Khazar, from what I've understood. Like, the Khazar theory, most Ashkenazi Jews are not Khazars, but the mountain Jews do have some Khazar blood. Let's see. Shalima Nazir says, I will join. Is that in reference to Discord? If so, welcome. Great to have you. Tenro on Twitch says, hello. Hey, Tenro. Are you our one Twitch guy? This streams to Twitch, but I never go on Twitch. It's just a setting you could do on StreamYard. And we always have one viewer on Twitch. Is that you, Tenro? If so, good to see you here. Unless it's not the same person and we just, if it wasn't the same person, then sometimes it would be at 2 people, right? The fact that it's always at 1 gives me the impression that we have like just a consistent viewer that's a Twitch guy. People said that I should do more Twitch stuff, but technically I am. But what's the whatever? I don't want to get into now. I'm not interested in that. Shalima, I would say this live should be getting more notice. I gained a lot of truth. Thank you. Well, that's why we do it. And yeah, obviously I'd like to see a situation. What do we say? 26 on YouTube, 140 on Twitter, and we have the crew here on Discord, another 10. Yeah, I mean, that's like almost 200 people, right? Which is good, but yeah, if it was 2,000, that'd be cool. I mean, the goal here is impact, so the more people that view it. So yeah, Shalim, if you want to share with friends, let the whole family know. I've never done the live streams consistently. It would be interesting to see if I'm going to start doing it more consistently. It would be interesting to see if the consistency will increase viewership. So we'll try. Michael Ovadia says Israel should do a better job at integrating Jews and Muslims together. I agree. There should definitely be more focus on that.
Can I bring something into that?
Actually? Yeah, sure.
There's, the Israeli public broadcaster, Khan. It has an Arabic language version called Makan. And they do, it's all in Arabic, like in spoken Arabic even. And I think it's quite like the government doesn't like it, even though it's the public broadcaster. And they even, if Come Dine With Me, they made an Arab, like a Palestinian Arabic language version of Come Dine With Me, where a lot of pro-Palestinian sentiment was expressed on the program, an anti-Israeli government, and it did have a very, very positive following reception from the Jewish side. Like, it's in Arabic with Hebrew subtitles, and there were a lot of fan groups on Facebook with it. And I mean, I even talked to one of the participants about, like in private, about something. And so actually, I think you could they also respond on Facebook, so you can probably even get them as guests if you want something like that.
Yeah. I think I'd love to. Are you in touch with any of them? You
I
said
was.
you
I
were.
could
You
just
said you
send
were.
you.
Okay. Yeah. If you could connect me, I'd be happy
Yeah,
to.
like on Facebook.
Sure.
Like,
Sure.
I talked to something unrelated, but I think at least I could recommend it to the Arab speaking and also the Hebrew speaking members here to watch it if they can, if it's not regionally blocked.
Mm.
Because it's an Israeli public broadcaster production, but it's not very not very Zionist, I could say.
That's interesting. That's interesting. I should look more into that. But that's more so having like media for Arab Israelis, less so about like some kind of reconciliation. I don't even know if reconciliation is the right word, but more integration between both people. Okay.
Well, and it is, to me, it looked like a way to connect the Jewish public or the Hebrew-speaking public to the Palestinian or Arab-speaking public, just through watching TV, like Arabic TV productions with Hebrew subtitles. And I think it did have a bigger fan following on the Jewish side than on the Arabic side.
Okay.
Just because of
so it's kind of like
numbers.
it's a shared cultural program kind of thing.
Yeah, they didn't have any Jewish participants. I actually asked one of the producers. They said that maybe next season they'll have Jewish participants that speak Arabic.
Okay.
Because the whole premise is that it's completely in Arabic.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I had no idea, but that's a good sign. So that's actually that's not a public institution. That's a private institution, but it's still good to see that it's happening. Let's see. I see I'm losing the comments, but let's try to get a few here. Yeah, guys, we're gonna need to start doing super chats because I cannot follow all of this, but it is good to see that there's chatter. So where did I see this? Somebody said I should speak to Lonerbox. So I was on Lonerbox's stream probably like 6 months ago. I made the case for the death toll in Gaza and how we could know with a high degree of certainty the range of what it is. He didn't really give all too much pushback, but people keep messaging me saying that he's quite skeptical of the death toll and that I should speak to him about Israel-Palestine stuff. But whenever I chat with him, we talk sometimes on Discord, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm not really doing Israel-Palestine stuff." Like he's down to talk. He's like, "Yeah, you could join stream, but I'm not doing Israel-Palestine stuff." And then people message me saying he is doing Israel-Palestine stuff. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. I don't think he wants to talk to me about it for whatever reason. But I enjoyed my time on his stream, and I'd definitely be down to go back. No flights going out of Israel. Autovan says Hitzroni was saying there are no flights going in or out of Israel right now, and everyone is completely stuck if they want to leave, given his personality. I don't know if no, there aren't. There's no flights out of Israel, and supposedly I didn't understand why, but they did have some cruise ships leaving, taking people stranded. Like there were a bunch of birthright groups here, so they took cruise ships to Cyprus, which was probably a lot of fun, honestly. But they said you can't take Israelis out, and I don't know why they're blocking Israelis from leaving. Though I do imagine Israelis could leave through the through Jordan or Egypt because there are land crossings, so that's probably the best bet. Why ISIS has never attacked Israel? So yeah, this is an interesting question. There's like this conspiracy that ISIS is like a Mossad CIA creation. My take on it.
ISIS did attack Israel, actually. At least in Tel Aviv, they did a few cafe bombings and shootings.
Is that right? Maybe there was a lone wolf attack that was inspired by ISIS. Is that what it was? But I'll tell you what I think is just the more plausible explanation is that ISIS was trying to take over Syria and they don't want an additional enemy. They didn't want Israel attacking them in Syria. They would rather either have Israel's support in taking down Assad, or at the very least not having Israel as an enemy. Israel was supportive of the Syrian rebels. That was an official policy of Israel, that we will support the rebels against Assad. The extent to which they supported them is unclear, but there definitely was support. I mean, I served on the Syrian border in 2014 as a reservist, and we definitely cooperated with the rebels, or not with giving them weapons, but I don't even know if I could get in trouble saying this. Whatever. There's the official policy was definitely in support of the rebels against Assad. And one publicly stated policy was, if anybody shoots at Israel from Syria, then we attack Assad. That was the official policy. They're like, look, if you guys attack, we're going to blame it on Syria, and we're attacking Assad, or like the Assad military. So there was an attack on the Quneitra crossing while I was there guarding. That's the crossing between Syria and Israel. And our protocol is, if the border gets attacked, you retreat into Israel, because it's very hard to defend that crossing. And the rebels took over that crossing from the Syrian army while we were there, and the Syrian rebels were shooting on us. The reason we know this, or can assume this to be true, is because Syrian intelligence was reporting to our command center on the radio saying, it's not us shooting, it's them, because they didn't want us to join the battle and attack Syria. So it was clearly a flawed policy, because all that did was incentivize the rebels to shoot on us. They shot on us in order to get us to attack the Syrian army. So at that point, there was no attacks on the Syrian army, because we saw that they're clearly trying to take advantage of that policy. Sean's saying he's stuck in Jerusalem, need a vacation. Go take a trip to the north, The Galilee's peaceful. So was there just rockets on missiles on Jerusalem? I got the pre-warning but no alarm. Interesting. Someone's correcting me that Uzbekistan is right north of Afghanistan. Okay, yeah. The stands are like the most unknown parts of the world. Many people don't know much about the stands, but supposedly they're beautiful. But yeah, I guess, is it Kazakhstan that's closer to the Caucasus? I don't know. But interestingly, Uzbekis and Kazakhs are some of the easiest to identify. Here's a little cultural trick, a little cultural flex you could do at times. You won't always get it right. But if you ever see somebody with a somewhat Asiatic look, like they look kind of Asian, but they speak with what you could identify as a Russian accent, they're almost always going to be from Kazakhstan or Uzbekistan. Now, the thing is, very few people know this. So if you guess correctly, and the more you meet them, the easier they are to identify. But if you ever say to somebody, are you from Kazakhstan? And you get it right, they'll be shocked, because no one gets that right. So that's a little tip. Harry Potter says, Dagestan, bro, heard of Khabib? Yeah, I'm a big MMA fan. I watch all the big fights. So I definitely know Khabib.
And what you said is true. It could also go for Kyrgyzstan and maybe even Turkmenistan,
Right. For some reason, I've met less people from those other stands. Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, I seem to meet the most. Specifically Kazakhstan.
Well, Uzbekistan has more population than all of them combined. So
Uzbekistan?
Yeah, Uzbekistan. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, good to know.
But the food is amazing in Uzbekistan. That's like the big thing right now, is travel to Uzbekistan for the food.
Well, yeah.
Amazing food.
Well, you guys, first of all, Uzbeki apricots are the best in the world. I have some right here. Although I did find a competitor. My hold on. Let's do some show and tell. Hold on, guys. We just happen to be talking about Uzbekistan, and I got something to show. Okay. Cool. So Uzbeki apricots are really known. They're the goats. They're the goats of apricots. They're just this like deeper orange.
The dried one, right?
Yeah, the dried one. They're this deeper orange, and they just taste so much better.
Yeah.
I don't even eat the pale ones anymore. Now, what I recently discovered, and I don't know what this is, but I'm not going to eat this whole thing because I don't want to eat on stream. But these guys, this is new. This is from my brother-in-law. Look how flat they are. But this is also an apricot. And these, honestly, I like them better. They got this like sour tartness. And they're really hard. It's like leather. I'll find out what these are called, but highly recommended. But now, in Uzbekistan, also they eat horse, right? Horse is pretty popular. Yeah.
I don't know if it's pretty popular, but I believe they do eat it. Yes, I left like 40 years ago when I was a kid.
Okay.
But yes, they do have horse meat there. That I'm actually supposed to go back this October. God willing, if everything is okay. I already have tickets to go back for the first time.
Wow, for the first time in 40 years?
Yes, well, almost since 1988.
Damn, that's exciting. I hope you make it. Okay. Well, let us know. Let us know
I'm
how
really
that goes.
excited.
Amazing. Yeah, because I remember when I was in Moscow, I had horse, and it was Uzbeki.
How was it?
It was like a sausage, so it's all the same shit in
Yeah, that's what I was
sausage.
gonna say.
And maybe now is an
Yeah.
opportunity to say I think that a vegan lifestyle is a more ethical lifestyle. And the fact that I'm not vegan is why I don't consider myself to be living a truly moral life. That's the one area where I feel like I could do better. I was vegan for 1.5 years, but I lost too much weight, so I started eating meat. But so you could see like I don't know if we want to get into the whole moral argument, but I think that if you look at like what eating animal products is, unless you need it for health, then I see a clear justification. But any amount of eating animal products in excess to what you need for your health, you're essentially abusing animals for pleasure. There's really no way around that. That's what it is. So I could see a justification for me to eat. Like I'm pretty thin now. I was 20 pounds less when I was vegan. I looked sickly. So I could see like justification to eat animal products to the extent that I need them. But anything in excess, it's very hard for me to see a moral justification for that. But because I'm already consuming it, it's like, okay, whatever. Like I'm already consuming it, I might as well. But then when I reflect on it, I recognize it's not 100%. But because I'm already not being 100%, if I'm traveling and I see an exotic food, I'll always go for it. So I had some horse, and in China, I was eating all sorts of weird stuff. So horses, I need a try. I need a
dog.
I didn't eat dog, but if I saw some, and that's another interesting. Like, is eating dog less ethical than eating cow? Right. So there's like a subjective hierarchy of life that I think we all adhere to some extent. Nobody is going to consider. Well, I don't want to say nobody, but it's. You're not going to find many people who think killing a cow is as bad as killing a human, right? So most people would put humans above cows, but then most people would also put dogs above cows, but below humans, right? So we all kind of create this hierarchy, and I don't know if it's entirely subjective. You could create the hierarchy based on what you believe the level of sentience is and how much they can suffer. But that's also very hard to determine, right? We don't know, but nobody puts it all on the same level, because then like taking antibiotics is genocide, right? In that regard. So we all need to create a hierarchy of life, but I do think that we should try make an effort to not exploit and abuse animals for pleasure. Like that just seems obvious, you know? So I think there's like a very strong moral case for either no consumption of animal products or minimal consumption of animal products.
I agree with you, but I would classify myself like in the hunting category. Like I would not go hunt. Like that's why I don't like hunting, because I don't want to kill animals, because I don't need to eat them. You know what I mean? I could just go to the store.
So it's interesting. Most people make the reverse argument, though.
Right. But
Right.
if you don't, like, if you go to the store, even if you hunt to eat it, I still think you're wasting an animal's life per se. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see both arguments. One is like, look, if you're already going to kill an animal, you might as well like put yourself through the process so you don't disassociate from it. But the other is saying, first of all, hunting's not scalable. If everybody hunted, there'd be no animals left. And the other is there like a societal cost? A human that could bring themselves to kill an animal, is that person more likely to be able to kill a human as well? And I'm not sure, but I think it's an interesting question, right? Is like, if we normalize hunting, does that normalize violence in society? It might be better to just have people that's their job to slaughter animals, and then people don't need to get desensitized to killing. So I think there's a case to be made. That said, I think the solution is lab-grown meat, right? I think probably the next generation, maybe a generation or two, they'll look back to us killing and eating the flesh of dead animals as utterly barbaric. Like we don't think about it because we're used to it. Think about like an omelet. You're taking like chicken period. You often mix it with like secretion from a cow's tit, right? Milk, and then flesh of a dead animal. That people, you want to do like an omelet with ham. Like think about that. Chicken period, tit secretion, and animal flesh for breakfast. That's disgusting. I mean, it's delicious, but if you actually think about what you're doing, and it's almost the kind of thing that would be like a witch's potion in a novel. Like that's the kind of shit a witch would put in a potion, but that's breakfast, you know? So it's interesting. It's interesting.
And here's another thing on the hierarchy of the animals. Like I'm against hunting, right? Like I don't want to kill animals, but I don't have any feelings towards fishing. Like I could go fishing and not even blink an eye. You know what I mean? It's
right.
Like it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
fish.
Do you feel the same way? Like kind of like fishing is like whatever, right? Because you're eating the fish. It doesn't feel the same as like killing an animal, like hunting an animal. You know what I mean? I don't know why.
I fished a lot as a kid, and it would be harder to do it now as an adult. I think I'm a little more aware, but I would definitely, as a kid, we would just leave it to suffocate in a bag. And now when I think about it, it's like, why? If I were to fish today, I would leave it in water until the time comes to kill it, or I'd kill it right away. Like I just, the suffocation now that I'm like, why were we so cruel unnecessarily?
I learned at a very young age to knock fish out right after fishing them.
You did? Okay.
Like with a stick.
Yeah, we kept them on the line, but still in the water to preserve it longer.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. So Kiran is saying, bro, what's your opinion of creating a Telegram group for our cause? Well, we have a Discord, which is better than Telegram, and soon we're going to have our own platform. So Kiran, I'm dropping a link. You could also find it in the description, but join our Discord. We got this awesome community. So ITS is saying Loner doesn't say 1-to-1 and shit regarding the civilian command ratio. Okay, it's good that he's not parroting complete bullshit. But I wonder why he's not interested in chatting. Or I guess somebody... I don't watch other streamer content, so maybe somebody tell me a specific topic that I should talk to Lonerbox about, and I'll just propose it to him. Because last we spoke, he's like, "Yeah, let's definitely do something soon." Serena Raju says, "What's your take on Greater Israel expansion theory?" So some people describe Greater Israel as all the land between the river to the sea. That has a significant political backing in Israeli society and in Israeli politics. I would say now, after October 7th, the majority, I would say, support one state from the river to the sea. It was around 50% before October 7th. I think this pushed it over a little. In terms of Greater Israel, which includes like Egypt and Syria and all that, like that map people say, that's baseless. You have some extremists in society, and maybe Smotrich in government who supports that, but that it's so fringe. There's no political will and no desire to do it. So Serena, I would not worry at all about that being Israel ambition. But in terms of a Jewish state from the river to the sea, I would say that's definitely the ambition of many, and might even be the case. Which in that case, we need to. It's either like de facto apartheid, right, where half the population living there are not citizens, or we make Palestinian citizens, where it would no longer be a Jewish state over some time, or some kind of ethnic cleansing would happen, right? That's pretty much the options if we do have one state, unless we do it in the form of a federation, which could work, because then you have smaller cantons, more local autonomy. So there's versions of one state that actually could work, but that's not what they're talking about when they talk about one state generally.
Can I add something to that?
Sure, yeah.
First of all, it's a bit of the term Greater Israel itself doesn't exist in Hebrew. I think it's, first of all, it comes from a conflation of different words like the Promised Land, or the Promised Land and complete Israel, and it's a conflation of at least 3 different types of descriptions in the Torah. So first of all, I have a problem with the term itself. And then what recently Ben Gvir and Smotrich did, I thought it was some kind of basically trolling or griefing, because they used the maps with these European border markings, which have nothing to do with any traditional Jewish thought. So it's not something that ever existed within Judaism, or I don't think either within Zionist society to a serious degree, other than quoting the Torah.
Yeah, it's very, very fringe. It's very, very fringe, but it does exist. Al, you got a great compliment. Somebody goes, "I love this guy's accent. He sounds like he's gonna fight me or feed me, or both." I actually agree, Al. You do have a great accent. Where'd you grow up?
New York.
Okay,
New York
okay,
City.
yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought, because you have like that tough guy New York accent. Has anyone told you that?
I don't know. I guess, yeah. They can't really figure it out. Is it New York? Is it Russian accent? Is it a combination?
Yeah, I think it's
I don't know.
Bukhari, New York. That's what it is,
I think the Egyptians here have a tough accent, like Omar and Abdullah. They have a tough accents here.
Well,
like tough guy accents.
Right, but so the reason why I think people think you have a tough guy accent is because, like, the way New Yorkers are depicted in movies, like gangster movies and stuff, you have like that tough guy New York accent that I think is often depicted in culture. So I think that's a compliment.
I'll take it.
A Russian streamer that sounds exactly like Al, and he's from Russia. He's, I think, one of those that left Russia because of criticizing Putin. I actually thought it was him when I first heard Al. It's called Sanctioned Ivan.
Interesting.
No, I don't know him.
We have some guy in the community that sounds just like Norman Finkelstein, but he's like Kahanist adjacent. That's what's funny. Somebody asked me what I think of Finkelstein. I just remember that was a comment from before. Look, I appreciate shameless people. I like there's certain qualities that I appreciate in people, and I think Norman has a few of those. So I like shamelessness. Like, he just does not give a fuck. He doesn't care for having friends. He doesn't care for making people happy. He almost seems like he likes to intentionally trigger people. And that's not like, I don't know if that's how you should live your life, but there's something enjoyable about that. He's also very smart, and I think he cares about justice. So there's a lot I like about him. And every time I give Finkelstein any amount of praise, I get a lot of hate. But I'm speaking about how. No, honestly, also a lot of his views I agree with. Sure, there's a lot of criticism. Sure, he's dabbled with anti-Semitic stuff. Sure, he's unnecessarily inflammatory and does all sorts of Holocaust inversion. So it's not like a full endorsement, but yeah, when I like watching Finkelstein do conversations and debates and stuff. I just find him an entertaining, amusing person, and also he's very smart, and I've learned stuff from him. He has his struggles, he has his biases for sure. But I don't hate the guy. I've had a conversation with him on this platform. We were actually meant to have him another one, but he pulled out. But we might once the head-on platform is ready for testing, we're gonna hopefully get we're gonna get him back on. Emma's saying, why let tourists leave? They're also civilians. No. Yeah, I mean, tourists, you're not going to trap tourists here. Like, that's just, that's like a very big PR crisis, So, let's see. Caitlyn Jenner left through Jordan. Interesting. She was all like, there's no place I'd rather be. I'm happy to be here. And gone, huh? Okay.
He was here for like a month already. So
yeah.
Probably lost patience.
Yeah. I'm not. I don't care. You call him a he. I call him a she. So it's funny the distinction. I'm conflicted on the whole trans thing. Well, I'll tell you where I'm not conflicted.
Me?
Well,
I didn't call Caitlyn Jenner he. I said she. Maybe it didn't sound like it.
I'm pretty sure you just said he.
I mean,
he twice. Maybe not. Well, I may have misheard you, but my take on it is like, I'm going to respect somebody's pronouns. Like, I have no interest in offending somebody and making somebody feel bad if it's important to them, But like, is it as simple as I'm a woman born in a man's body? I think that's probably an oversimplification of what's going on there. If there's like, I have heard that affirming their beliefs is the best for trans people. So if that's the case, I think great. Like one of my problems is that the conversation about trans procedures and hormones and what age and all that, it's being led by activists and not by doctors. This is a medical issue. We need to understand what the best treatment for trans people is. And activists should not be leading this conversation in any way, shape, or form. It's something medical. If we were to discover that the best thing you could do with a trans person is give them sexual reassignment surgery, give them hormones as young as possible, and that is the best chance to improve the quality of their life, then I would endorse that. Why wouldn't I? This whole thing, a man can't be a woman, like that's just like that, like closed-minded conservatism. But I'm not convinced that that's the best way. Like, I could see a case, and we may have some trans viewers. I hope you're not offended. That's not my intention. But I could see a situation where reassignment surgery or identifying as the other sex is not the best thing, and there's maybe some process through psychology that can help you even more. I think that's very much possible, and it's not something that activists should be determining. We really need to study this, get to the bottom of it, understand it, and allow trans people, help trans people live the best possible lives. So that's generally how I do it. But so if you didn't say he, at the very least, it allowed us to have a little bit of a conversation on it. Sophie said,
I didn't. I mean,
no, you go ahead.
I grew up in Dana International At least she was pretty famous.
Yeah, back in the day.
And
yeah.
I never heard anyone referring to Dana International as a he in Hebrew.
Oh,
The same way some people do it now. So I think it's a kind of a counter trend.
that wouldn't surprise.
Also because it was so rare.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me because it was rare, but like a lot of it seems to be counter trend. So, for example, if a lot of what people I think are rejecting is like the sports, like trans women in women's sports, I think is very triggering to people, and locker rooms I think is also triggering to people, and also saying if you won't date a trans woman then you're transphobic. Like, I think this is pushing it to excesses and making people resist it. If it was simple as like, look, I identify as a man, please respect my identity, I think generally people would have a much easier time with that. They seem to be rejecting the entire movement, and that comes with rejecting one's identity as well. So I think that probably makes sense. Sophie asks, is this concept true of Rothschild banking dynasty funded and manipulated events to create the state of Israel for their financial and strategic benefit? The Rothschilds were very much a large player in helping Zionism achieve its goals, without a doubt, to the point where you could make a case that without the Rothschild family, there may not be an Israel. That'd be an interesting debate to have, or discussion to have. Manipulated events, I don't know what you mean by that. I'd need like an example, but they bought the land here. The Balfour Declaration was from Lord Balfour to one of the members of the Rothschild family. So they were very influential and instrumental in the creation of the Jewish state. Did they do it for their financial and strategic benefit? I haven't looked into that. I think it was to a large degree driven by ideology, and not all Rothschilds were Zionists. And even today, the Rothschilds are split in how they feel about Israel. But I mean, they're good, very, very savvy business people. So I could imagine that they probably saw some financial benefit there as well. But I wouldn't say it was just that. There's definitely ideology involved. Sean is saying meat and plants is the same shit. That's the thing. You could say that, but you don't believe that. I'll tell you why. Do you consider, let's say you would see somebody, let's say you'd see like a baby chick in the middle of like a lawn. Somebody would walk over to the baby chick and step on it. What would bother you? The fact that they stepped on the baby chick, or that they were walking on grass? You didn't even think about the fact walking on grass is potentially harming the grass, killing the bugs. No, there's no reason to believe that they're the same, because they, plants don't have a central nervous system. They might experience some kind of pain. We do know that plants have some kind of a defense mechanism against predators, but there's no reason to think that it functions in nearly the same way. So if they don't suffer to nearly the same extent, I don't think there's at all a strong case that they're the same shit. Sean say, I'd eat humans if it were healthy. How do you know it's not healthy? I feel like it might be healthy, but let me ask you, would you kill a human to eat them? Oh, no, I see that you're trolling. You're saying I ate my cat the other day. It annoyed me. Sean says I have a Discord aversion. Sean, you'll need to get over it. But soon we're going to have our own platform for all this stuff. So you'll, damn it, we're seeing 40 Palestinians killed today. Is that right? Yeah, the past 24 hours in Gaza have been some of the deadliest in months. There's a brutal massacre yesterday. Every day in the food distribution, we're seeing massacres. But yesterday was particularly bad. Supposedly a tank shot at a crowd of people. There's video of it. It's pretty bad. Not of the shot, but the aftermath, people and like body parts and stuff. Harry Potter says, friend, I'm curious what showed the right path when you had all the chance to be like the idea of soldiers. What made you stand out? I mean, I'm definitely an outlier in Israeli society. I don't know fully what to attribute it to. It's hard to know because I'm also an outlier in my family, so it's not like I could attribute it only to upbringing. I don't know, maybe psychedelics, but you know, a lot of IDF soldiers take psychedelics after the IDF, and I actually imagine it probably changes them to some extent, but I don't know. A combination of many different things, and maybe it could also just be something innate that just I see the world a little bit differently. Like when I think about how I am a little bit different than the average person, put Israel Palestine aside, like I'm not as easily triggered as most people, and I have something called adaptive empathy, which means I could very deeply feel empathy, but I can also like block it off and disassociate from it. So clearly I feel empathy. It would be hard for me to have these, you know, fighting this fight and speaking for the rights of other people if I didn't feel their pain to some extent. But like I was able to watch the October 7th massacres, and when I see Gazan children dismembered, I'm able to look at that without feeling all too much pain. I'm able to kind of block that off, which I believe allows me to do this commentary space pretty well because I can, I think to a pretty good degree, stay somewhat objective and not emotional. So maybe my ability to kind of disconnect from my emotions allows me to not let my personal connection to Jewish people in Israel influence my worldview. Like I could kind of disassociate from that as well and kind of look at it from an outside perspective. Maybe that, I'm not sure. I have thought about it though. I don't know. No, somebody's saying that you said he about Caitlin, just so you know. Saluki is hella transphobic.
Oh,
Interesting.
okay.
It's not. It's all good. It's all good. No one's no.
Saluki, is he healthy now? I remember at some point he started posting like crazy, like talking about his mental health, and then smoking and driving and taking shrooms on stream and things like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've admitting himself.
I've never met
rehab or something.
I'm gonna reach out to him. I'm not sure, but it's interesting that he's hella transphobic, because it doesn't seem to fit his what other things I know about him. Rothschild manipulated also links conspiracy theories about Jews. Yeah, it seems connected to that, but here's the tricky part, right? You know, Rothschilds, like all very wealthy, powerful people, have been involved in some kind of manipulation at some point or time. So it's like, on one hand, yes, it's connected to conspiracy theory and anti-Semitism, but on the other hand, there are actual instances we could talk about the Rothschilds that very well, they may have manipulated something, you know? So I guess we need to be careful and nuanced how we talk about it, as to just not fuel hate, but in a way that we could still talk about truth, you know? Like, yeah, it's like when people were criticizing George Soros and they're like, oh, that's anti-Semitic to criticize George Soros. But it's like, that's not, that in my opinion is a weaponization of anti-Semitism. George Soros is Jewish, but he's also a billionaire who was the largest donor to the Democratic Party. He's fair game to talk about, you know? If you're not just like, you could talk about, criticize him in good faith. It doesn't have to be anti-Semitic. So I think we need to just be cautious of how we navigate that. What's going to be with Gaza, Sean? Yeah, I mean, let's just like talk about that for just 1 second, because you need to think of where we're at right now. 2 years, Israel's been in Gaza for almost 2 years now. Israel only controls 50% of Gaza, right? This tiny strip, 50% control in 2 years. And the humanitarian crisis, I mean, is just horrific. If you look at the numbers, around 1 in 60 children have already been killed, but there's no end in sight. You see, you have hostages still rotting in their tunnels, right? So it's like disaster, absolute disaster. Sean is saying, should I take shrooms for the first time with my Palestinian ex? It depends what the purpose is, but let me know the purpose and I'll answer that. I would say shrooms is best to take in like a nice nature spot with people you trust well, like a good group of friends that you're really comfortable with in nature on like a day has good weather. Like you don't want to be in the blistering heat. That's probably one of the best shroom experiences you'll have. Or it could be a beach for sunset. But I would definitely suggest nature and people that you trust very well. Is there any dual legal systems for Jews versus Palestinians? So in Israel proper, meaning, Israel proper being 48, meaning everything excluding Gaza and the West Bank. East Jerusalem, things get complicated, but in Israel proper, you have 20% are Palestinian/Israeli Arab. They have a mixed and complicated identity. They're citizens, and they exist under the same legal system as all Jews. Now, there is a case to be made that the legal system doesn't treat them the same way. And I'm not, this isn't something I looked into, but I have heard people make this case. But it may be, if you're interested, something we could look in deeper. That would be equivalent to white Americans and black Americans having one legal system, but judges giving black people harsher sentences for the same crimes. So I think that very well might exist in Israeli society, despite them living under the same legal system. When it comes to Palestinians in the West Bank, they're under a different legal system than Jews. If they do something wrong, they do something wrong within their areas. If it's domestic, then the Palestinian Authority deals with them. But if they do something wrong to a Jew, then it's military court, right? They're subject to military court. So let's say you have a Jew and a Palestinian living in two neighborhoods, two towns next to each other in the West Bank. If a Palestinian goes and attacks a Jew, they go to military court. If the Jew attacks the Palestinian, well, first of all, there's a good chance nothing will happen to them. But if something does happen to them, it's not military court, it's civil court. So yeah, there are two systems in the West Bank for sure. Shaluki is also homophobic, which is strange. Interesting. You know what? So you know what? I don't know him all too much, but wait, is there any way I could make this without being racist? Yeah, perhaps. So is Saluki fully, what's his ethnic background? Well, maybe that's the wrong question if I don't want to sound racist, but he might very much be like more of like a traditional.
He's Iraqi.
But Jewish? Is he fully Jewish?
Yes, Iraqi Jew.
Here's a theory. He's very connected to his traditional Arab identity in a way that he feels connection with Palestinians, but connecting to his traditional Arab identity, he's not so open to trans and gays. That's a theory, but I'll need to talk to him about it.
I know he speaks fluent Russian somehow, and I'm not sure how. I thought it was connected to his ancestry.
I think he just learned it. I think he just likes to learn languages. I follow him too.
Okay.
ITS is
And
saying,
also,
yeah, go ahead, Al.
I was going to say, he said he's going to live in Ramallah or lives in Ramallah.
I heard he lives in Ramallah already, yeah.
But how is that possible? I thought somebody said you cannot rent to Jews, and so how is that?
We'll need to get him on, but I've heard of a few cases of that, so I think there's some loopholes. Benny, we have you on here as well.
Yeah, according to what he says on his videos, and it's hard to tell with that, but he's half Iraqi, half Romanian, and he spent a few years in his childhood in South Africa, for one of his father's business or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
He always talks about Argentina. It's like he's all over the place, right?
He traveled a lot in South America. I don't think he has any connection beyond traveling there.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so we'll need to get to the bottom of this. ITS says, Adar, from what country do you think you look? Well, first of all, my DNA test came back 99.8% Ashkenazi, that 0.2% Anatolian, which is modern day Turkey. But Ashkenazi is not like, also has like a mix, right? It's not just Ashkenazi. There's different haplogroups within Ashkenazi. I think my look is to a large degree Ashkenazi, but I think there's something with my eyes that are a little bit more like almost Caucasus-like, interestingly, but that doesn't show up in the DNA test. So primarily Ashkenazi with a little Caucasus in there, and maybe Levantine, but that's part of the Ashkenazi. So Ashkenazi, so Europe, Eastern Europe, Levant, little Caucasus. That's how I'd describe my look. Let me know what you all think. Friend, I have 2 questions. Can you please answer? Does Israel take skin from dead Palestinians and sell it? No, they don't. You did have an instance in the 90s where the head of the forensics department was selling organs of Palestinians, but it wasn't only Palestinians. He was also selling the organs of Jews. It was just a dirty forensics guy. It wasn't a systemic thing. It was one guy. So that did happen, but it's not. No, they're not selling it. Sean says, I look Ashkenazi, but to an outsider, I would look Italian. Interesting. Okay. Sean, you're 100%. Damn, you got that pure blood, huh? You Anatolian freak. It's funny because when we told my my religious grandfather about the 2% Anatolian, he's like, "Oh, it must have been from rape." He couldn't accept that it was anything but that, which is funny. Adar, you should take an illustrative DNA test. They do ancient breakdown based on archaeological samples available from academic papers, and it's quite popular. You need to upload your raw DNA file. Huh. I'd be interested in checking that out. Tony Soprano said...
There's this...
Wait, hold on. Tony Soprano... Serge says, Tony Soprano said Italians are just Jews with better food. Interesting. That is funny. What's that, Noam?
There's this, I don't know, this trope now on like social media that it's Israel made DNA tests illegal, or they are illegal in Israel, because they don't want that it will be discovered that the Israelis are completely European and have no connection to the Middle East.
Correct. That's what somebody asked. That's what Sophie, I believe, asked earlier. Yeah.
But they're not illegal, first of all.
Right, that's what I said. I think there's some restrictions on them, but they're not illegal. I don't remember what the restrictions are, but we have enough Ashkenazi DNA that there'd be no like half the global Ashkenazi population doesn't even live in Israel. It's just the theory doesn't make sense, you know.
But you didn't have trouble doing the DNA test, right?
Well, first of all, it was actually my brother. We have the same DNA, but he did 23andMe, but I think he did it in the US. Yeah, Sean, it's true. You say you're very inbred. You being 100%, you're more inbred than me. So what's good? If anything, that 0.2% Anatolian balanced me out and made sure I don't have Tay-Sachs or any other genetic diseases. So what you know about that? Okay, I think we'll wrap it up. I think we'll start wrapping this up. It's already 1 a.m. This war has got me staying up late, huh? But been enjoying this. Al, Noam, and Benny, you guys want to share any final thoughts? Benny, we barely heard from you, but I'd love to give you guys all opportunity for some final thoughts before we close this.
I would just say thank you, Adar, for what you're doing. Keep doing it. You're like the bridge. So stay safe and continue doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Al. I appreciate that. And it's great having you be a part of this community.
Have a quiet night.
What's that, Benny? I couldn't hear you.
You said have a quiet night.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You know what's interesting? I get the alert on my phone automatically, but either at night it's not going off or it's not waking me up. But I'm a light sleeper, so I don't know why. I have not woken up a single night from any alert or siren. So not complaining, but thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, Benny, you're also in Israel now, right?
Yes, Sam.
Yeah, well, you too, man.
We get the sirens. You're probably like right on the border, so you're not really
Well,
within the you're within the Iranian safe, distance from going into Lebanon.
Well, interestingly, I am hearing them during the day when they happen, but for some reason at night, and like my mom's saying, she lives next door. She's saying, yeah, I get the alert in the middle of the night. It's waking me up and I'm not getting anything. So I don't know. I do sleep with like sleeping music. Maybe it's like blocking it out. I don't know, but I hope you sleep well as well. Thanks, Benny.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night. Noam, final thoughts?
Nothing specific, but wishing good night.
Thank you for joining, Noam. Thank you for everybody on stream. As I mentioned earlier, we will maybe do something this weekend, but if not, we're going to have one on Monday, and then we're going to have another one on Wednesday. So I look forward to seeing you all there. Stay